And now we're happy to bring in the new head hog, the new head coach of the University of Arkansas. Great career at Clemson, rebuilt the program at SMU. And now, Chad Morris, it's good to talk to you again. Coach, how are you?
Good to visit with you, Tony. How you doing?
I am doing great. I am doing great. I want to sort of listen, before we get started talking about your team, we just got a note from the NCAA Rules Committee that they've made a recommendation, and they made a recommendation that the kickoff rule be changed to the point where if the ball goes inside, if the kickoff goes inside the 25-yard line and you fair catch it, and you will not have to run the ball, and the ball will come out for a touchback, the 25-yard line. I know I'm hitting you with this coal. Obviously, what the committee's trying to do is reduce the number of kickoffs. We understand that. But at first blush, what's your initial reaction to that kind of a rule?
Well, when I saw it come up today on my phone. It popped up, and it's kind of the first I'd heard about it. But you know, I don't know, anything that involves the safety issues, safety concerns of our players. If that's what's best for the safety of this game moving forward, then I'm in favor of that. But just to sit back and to think about it for just a little bit, it'll definitely change the impact of the game.
Now, Coach, everybody who knows Arkansas football knows one of the things when Arkansas has been successful, one of the things they've always been able to do is recruit the state of Texas. You were a high school coach in the state of Texas for 16 years. That's a big part of your background. And you say because of that, that's one reason Arkansas was the right fit for you.
Yeah, you know, when the job came open and the interviews started happening, and one of the things that really enticed me about becoming a Razorback was the fact of the footprint in recruiting and to be successful here. And you go back and look at all the storied programs of the Razorbacks back in the day. They were successful, obviously, with great players in our state, but also recruiting the state of Texas, in particular the Dallas area, the East Texas area. And that's where I'm from, and got great relationships there. Spent 18 years as a head coach, and know most of those high school coaches in that state. So yeah, that's what it's going to take for this program to get back to the top, is have a great mixture of players from not just in-state, but state of Texas, the Tulsa area, and the Memphis area.
Coach, one of the themes, as I've done the reading of what's going on over there in Arkansas, one of your themes is sort of a hammer-down theme. Tell us what that means and the sort of culture you're trying to build at Arkansas.
Well, you know, everybody thinks it's a fancy slogan to put on a shirt. You know, I know there are a lot of shirts around town that have hammer down on them, but really hammer down is a lifestyle. I mean, it's not just some event. It's a lifestyle. It's the way we do things. If you're going to do something, do it outright. And you know, one of the things that my dad always told me growing up, if it's worthy of your time, it's worthy of your best time. And so everything that we do has that type of tempo to it, that we're going to give our absolute best in everything we do.
Well, everybody who knows you and knows your offense knows how important the quarterback is to what you like to do. Tell us a little bit. You know, we know about Cole Kelly. We know about Ty Story and Dalton Hyatt. What do you have right now? Do you feel you have what you need right now at the quarterback position to run your offense the way you want it to run?
Well, we came out of day one yesterday of spring ball, and you know, it was a good day. A lot of great energy, guys flying around. The retention from some of the meetings that we've had over the last few weeks was really good. You could definitely tell they've been studying their installs on their own. You know, Cole actually started out and got a lot of our #1 reps in yesterday, but Dalton got a few, Ty got several, and so it'll be a wide open competition. And you know, we hope we can come out of spring finding a definite #1 there. I know we've got 2 really good ones coming in that'll join us in June. And so it'll be a wide open battle. And you know, Tony, you've been around and you've seen our offense, and the guy that's the main trigger puller here has got to be able to move the chains with his feet, not just his arms.
You know, one of the interesting things as I look down, you know, Cole Kelly has lost some weight. I look at Devois Whaley. Devois Whaley's lost some weight. It's obvious, just from reading this stuff, Coach, that you need for your football team to be a little leaner, a little quicker. Tell us about that.
Well, I thought that coming in after getting them in here in January and going through a first round of testing with these guys and seeing what our weight and our body composition was, that was something we had to do. We had to definitely lean our guys up, and so we spent a lot of our time through the first quarter phase doing a lot of our running. These guys have ran more than they've ran in a long time, and slimmed up. We've got guys that have lost really good weight, lost 14 pounds. Some have lost 11 pounds. and really trying to change the whole body composition, how they eat, and again, just part of that lifestyle that we're trying to change.
Your teams play fast. They've always played fast. They've been tempo teams trying to get a whole lot of plays. That's a bit of a culture change, I would think, from the players you have. How do you teach that? Because I know it takes time.
Well, I think it's all in the training. It's everything that you do, and it starts with Trumaine Carroll, our strength and conditioning coach. It's how you walk down the hallway. It's how you go to class. It's a lifestyle, and the way we train, the way we practice. These guys had great energy yesterday. It was one of the things that after watching them, knowing, number one, first they knew how to practice, and so that was really good to see. These guys have been well schooled on taking care of each other out there on the practice field, and so. But now just the tempo of practice, moving drill to drill, station to station, and you know when that first horn blows, there is no downtime. There's no wasted seconds. Even the way we do our midpoint of our practice, our halftime of practice, everything is scripted, everything is structured, and we want to be efficient with our time.
And one of the things about your offense is, yes, the quarterback is the trigger guy. He's got to make the plays. He's got to make great decisions. But you've always had big play wide receivers, guys who could get up and catch the ball, who would take a 5-yard play and turn it into a 25-yard play. You got a good young player in Jared Cornelius. He's coming off an Achilles heel. What have you seen from him? Is he going to be able to help you?
Yeah, I really do. I'm really excited about him. We've got several guys in that room. They played a lot of young players last year at a lot of positions, but that wide receiver position is in particular of some guys that got some great experience a year ago, and now to see them in coming into the new system and learning the new system, and it features this wide receiver position that we got to have it and a tight end, and we've got depth at our tight end position as well. So I think Jared has got a chance to be really special. He started out yesterday and had a great practice, so he's back and he's full throttle with it.
All right, Coach, final thing for me before I let you go. I mean, obviously, when you were at Clemson, you wanted to be a head coach. You got that opportunity at SMU. Then this opportunity came along. Oh, by the way, Coach, you're in the SEC West. There's one or two good teams in that league. Just thought I'd share that with you.
Yeah, there's a lot of good teams in that league, isn't there? We've got our work cut out for us, but you know what? All we can ask is just be a better football team tomorrow when we get off that practice field around 1:30 than we are right now, and that's all I can ask.
All right, Coach. Appreciate your time. Good luck. We'll come see you in the spring, okay?
You bet. Look forward to seeing you.
All right, very good. Coach Chad Morris. And here is the record. These are first-year coaches at the Arkansas since they joined the conference in 1992. Let's start from the bottom up. Danny Ford, of course, the very successful coach at Clemson, came in 5-5-1, eventually got the Razorbacks to an SEC championship game in 1995. Houston Dale Nutt came in 98. Inherited a pretty good team, went 9-3. Bobby Petrino did not start off very well, but he was sort of changing the way that they did things, installing the passing game. Did not go well. John L. Smith, you know that story. That story did not end well. Brett Bielema started 3-9, 0-8 in the SEC, and had some good moments, had some 8-win seasons, but then things sort of tailed off at the end. So the bottom line is Chad Morris has got his hands full.
It's been a while since we have spoken to Jason Kersey. He covers the Arkansas Razorbacks, and what a good opportunity to find out what's happening with a new coach. Jason, it's been a long time. I hope all is well with you, and set the scene for us. How's everything going with Chad Morris?
Yeah, well, Paul, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's nice to talk to you again. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of excitement around here about Chad Morris. The fan base had really sort of turned on Brett Bielema there at the end, and for obvious reasons. Things weren't going well. They were a bad football team last year. And Chad Morris has definitely provided some excitement. I think that his offense, his style of offense is what these fans have really wanted to see for quite some time. And I think they got a little taste of it with Bobby Petrino, and we all know how that ended. So I think now Chad Morris promises to bring an exciting offense back to Fayetteville, and then on the defensive side, I think John Chavis, for whatever you want to say about the few years he had at Texas A&M, this is a top-notch defensive coordinator, and I think there's a chance that there's reason to be excited. Maybe not this year because I think Brett Bielema's staff left the talent level a little bit low, but Down the road, I definitely think there's some signs of hope for Arkansas here.
Yeah, Jay, let me talk about Chavis for a minute because when he was at Tennessee, we all know the respect he had. That move to LSU, when he went to A&M, the expectations were high, and then we kind of forgot about him because the defenses were not that great, even though he had the best player in the country 2 years ago. Why should, and this obviously it's an interpretive question, why should Arkansas fans believe this trip will be different for John Chavis?
Yeah, and that's a very fair question. I think in the case of when he was at Texas A&M, I think there were a lot of factors there. But one thing that is important to remember is that the numbers did get better for him at Texas A&M than they were previously. I mean, he did make some improvements. He had NFL guys who made it into the NFL. So I mean, I think obviously it wasn't what anyone expected, and that's fair. But I think he did make improvement. I think he still knows how to coach people, and I think once he gets his system in here, I think there's definitely reason to believe. Now, the biggest problem John Chavis is going to face this year, and maybe for the next couple of years, is the just incredible lack of talent. I mean, Brett Bielema's staff did not recruit well, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They have maybe 2 or 3 people, I think, that are definite SEC football players: Ryan Pulley, McTelvin Agim, and then probably linebacker Dijon Harris. And outside of that, they're not working with much. So this year, I think Arkansas fans are going to need to be patient with Chavis because this is not a talented football team right now.
Let me back up for just a second, Jason, because so many of us in the media, kept saying, "Well, Brett Bielema's a really good coach." How did it get so bad under Bielema?
Yeah, it's incredible how quickly it turned. I mean, he had improved that team from 3-9 to 7-6 to 8-5, and it felt like things were definitely moving in the right direction. They won 2 bowl games, and then I think the end of the 2016 season when they blew huge second half leads to Missouri and Virginia Tech, that's when things started to turn. But that's not the only reason that things went bad last season. I think the lack of talent, I keep coming back to that, but I think the lack of talent really hurt. And one thing Brett Bielema did, and I don't know why this happened, but they just did not recruit Texas. I mean, I think in his 5 classes he signed 15 people from Texas. Well, that's a border state that is just overflowing with Division I talent, and it's just mind-boggling that he didn't recruit Texas better. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think one big one, there were the reports that he, the fight that he got in with Cliff Kingsbury over, how he wanted to play offense. I think that bothered a lot of coaches in Texas. But Texas is a border state. Arkansas can only be good if they recruit Texas well. If they recruit Texas the same way that Oklahoma State and Oklahoma do, and they just didn't do that. Now, the good thing for Chad Morris is he was a Texas high school coach. 2 or 3 of his other staff members were Texas high school coaches. It may take some time, but I think they're going to get back into Texas. And if they can do that, then they can turn things around. It just may take a little time.
We know what Chad Morris has done as an assistant and obviously as a head coach, but if you had to take not a wild guess because you probably have a pretty good idea, but what is this offense going to look like?
Well, I mean, I think they're going to play fast, obviously. And that's going to be a big change from what we saw under Brett Bielema. They just did not play fast. They huddled up. That's just something that Chad Morris does not do. And right now the big question for me is the offensive line. That got really bad the last 2 years under Brett Bielema. It'll be interesting to see what they're able to do there. But, they have some talent on offense. Cole Kelly is probably going to be the quarterback. I think he's a talented guy. I think he's definitely capable of playing in this kind of system. And then at running back, Devwall Whaley and T.J. Hammonds and Chase Hayden are all 3 really talented running backs. And running backs can and they're running backs that can catch the ball. They're running backs that can do a lot of different things. So I think that really a lot of it's going to depend on what the offensive line does and who steps up at receiver. But Arkansas fans are not going to recognize this offense because it's going to look nothing like what it looked like last year.
Jason, looking at the personnel and looking at the schedule, these are always questions people love in early April.
Right.
What's the range for the Razorbacks?
Oh, gosh. it'd be great if they could get bowl eligible. I think that might be a little bit tough, although I think the non-conference slate is a little bit maybe easier than it was last year. They don't have a TCU on the schedule, but they do have to. They're not going to beat Alabama. They're probably not. They're not going to beat Auburn. This is a team that needs to try to get to 6 wins. If they can get to 6 wins, I think it's a successful season. But I'm just not sure that they're quite there, based on how bad they were last year. I mean, people forget last year they are 2 comeback wins against Ole Miss and Coastal Carolina, which they won by 1 point from going 2-10 last season. So this is a team that has a lot of rebuilding to do.
Bowl eligible, that's not exactly what Razorback fans thought they would be talking about looking back maybe 4 years ago in 2018. By now, I think, Jason, and you would agree, they were at least hoping to be in the conversation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they went from having, Bobby Petrino's last 2 years, they won 10 games. They went to the Sugar Bowl one year. They won the Cotton Bowl, Bobby Petrino's last year. They finished ranked 5th in the country, only losses to LSU and Alabama. There was a reason to believe that Arkansas was a program that might be right there on the cusp of being a national power, and things just fell apart after that, and they haven't figured out how to put it back together.
Good to catch up. Jason Kersey joining us. He's with The Athletic. It's a great new publication, and we hope to talk to you very soon, Jason. Be well. Defense at Arkansas, not good. Jason Kersey trying to paint a nice picture there. I'm not sure he succeeded. Anytime I hear someone, Mark, talk about a program and they say the goal is to be bowl eligible, we've heard that from a couple, especially with new coaches, put on your seatbelt.
Patience is not a word that SEC fans like to hear. I know they should, but everybody wants to get there quickly, and that was not a there was a lot of lines in there about Bielema not leaving a lot of talent behind, and they need patience, and Chavis is going to come on. I got to ask you about Chavis here, Paul, because we went back a couple of years ago, and at LSU, it was going to be the game changer. At A&M, it was going to change things and bring them over the top. What's the legacy when it's done at Arkansas here in however many years?
Well, I mean, he's got less talent today than he did a year ago.
Right.
I really don't know how to answer that. I mean, I think he's a really good coach, and I love this phrase, guy hasn't forgotten how to coach.
No, he hasn't. It's just you go to places
Nobody
where
forgets how to coach if they have good players.
Right, and from LSU to A&M to Arkansas, where apparently the cupboard is bare or barer.
Forget John Chavis. I think he could coach anything given time, but I can't believe how all of us were taken for a ride by Brett Bielema. So many of us, and I'm at the head of the line. I bought in that this
what
guy
wasn't to believe?
Well, I just can't believe.
Guy went to Rose Bowls.
Yeah.
He came down. Everybody looked at it. It was kind of like this Wisconsin program that was behind Ohio State and Michigan State and all these other programs in the Big Ten. He's going to come down to Arkansas, and he's going to be able to do the same thing there. I mean, why wouldn't we believe?
I don't know. I don't know what happened.
So how many wins do you think next year? I mean, bowl eligible, 7?
No, I don't think they can get bowl eligible. I mean, first of all, I don't know enough about. Tell me about Colorado
Tulsa?
State and Tulsa.
They should beat them.
They should. Why? I mean, what do they have on this team?
Because they're Arkansas.
That is. I almost said a terrible word there. They had to come from behind to beat Coastal last year.
Junior out of Charleston, Arkansas. And Cole Kelly expected to get a lot of snaps here today. Kelly started 4 games last year, was 2-2. And for Story, 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year here in the Natural State, Kelly, and also was an all-state player in basketball and baseball. Question is, how much has he been able to ascertain of this offense?
When you're breaking down the quarterbacks to begin with, I think right now it's about Ty Story and Cole Kelly, and they bring considerably 6'7", 260, depending on his latest weigh-in, and he's just a big man. He's an intriguing talent, but you need a trigger puller in this offense. Pocket extensively. We saw that in practice multiple times.
3rd down and long as Story cocks and fires. Pass is incomplete, looking for Nance. And Ryan Pulley in coverage did a nice job to break that one up. Mixed results did rally the Hogs back from a couple of deficits late in the year. Quick pitch out to Chase Hayden. Story tosses his first scoring pass today.
And look at the intricate ball handling to begin with. Story gets outside the pocket, which is, I think, Story's sweet spot. I think he has very good feet, throws it going to his left as a right-hander and puts it on the big tight end. Says, hey, we can help you by teaching you how to defend us, because if you can defend us, then you can defend a lot of people. And Chad Morris wants to know how John Chavis
Auburn and Arkansas, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and we've talked with Chad about it this week, what that relationship has been like, as Kelly fires his strike to the far side, and pass will be caught by LaMichael Petway. He's one of the receivers that has shed about 10 pounds of weight in an effort to get faster and quicker off the line.
And look when this ball comes out, and this is a back shoulder throw, thrown extremely well, and Petway's one of those receivers that can really make a splash. In a sense, he's getting a fresh start. Didn't get a whole lot done under Brett Bielema's staff, but he has flashes, and they've talked about seeing that in the spring, and he certainly looks the part. 6'2", 225, has great speed, and right now he's learning how to play technique. And one of the things that Joe Craddock told us is he's got to get in better shape. The first thing that happens, just kind of like you in the weight room, the first thing that happens is when you get tired, your technique goes downhill, right?
I'm in great shape, for the record. So I don't know what you're talking about, but I understand the concept.
Yeah, so Petway needs to get in better shape, and when he does, his technique is going to be maintained longer, and he actually has a chance to make a splash.
Here's Kelly lobbing it deep. On the far side broken up. Chevin Callaway in coverage. Tipped that one away at the last second. The sophomore from Dallas. Fourth down. The white team electing to go for it. So a pressure-packed moment here, Kelly. And a pass will be caught. That'll move the sticks. Tyson Morris, the walk-on with the grab and across the middle. Down in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback were not great and prompting that coaching change, as everybody knows by now. And Kelly pick up a couple on second down. Hoping to gain health and strength this offseason, and apparently he is. Story will fake the handoff and across the middle. A nice pitch and catch ahead of the 40-yard line. And a pass caught by LaMichael Petway, a gain of 20.
Hey, now we're going to do a little split flow zone here. Back to the left. Going to bring the tight end back across.
Second down.
Run it to the right. They got it mixed up out there. It's all good, though. You can see right there we're short on the backside because the tight ends lined up the wrong side.
3rd and 5 here. Let's see what Coach dials up.
All right, 3rd down, medium here. We're looking to throw a little quick game. See if we can't get LaMichael Petway open. If the corner crashes down, we should be throwing it to the back. We'll see what we got here. Should be working LaMichael Petway to the boundary side here. There it is right there, 1st down.
Nice decisive read that time, right?
That was really good by Ty. You know, when he's on the same page with me, that's when we're going to be pretty good. We're running a little tight zone to the left again here, just trying to pick up positive yards on 1st down. We have an RPO out to the field there that Ty was able to take advantage of.
Story's pass complete to Jordan Jones. He's brought down at the 40-yard.
What was his read there? What made him go outside?
The Sam linebacker, he had good numbers out there, so we decided to take his hitch. It's a good read by him. Now we're in a 2nd and 7 type situation. Staying ahead of the change is really good. He should pull this one. Throw it.
PI.
PI there, yeah.
Story's pass is incomplete. There's a technical play.
You like the greediness of trying to take a shot after getting that
3rd
first
down
down.
here, guys.
Love that. Yeah. Here we got a little post wheel action in the boundary. See if we can't get the boundary safety down here. If boundary safety comes down, he should take Mike Woods. Might take Mike Woods here on the post. Oh, he overthrew him.
That's
Coach,
a good
thanks for
read.
the time.
That was a great read, though, on that end. It was softness outside on the wheel post combination, and so you had one-on-one backside to the post. And if Ty Story drives this football in, it's a touchdown. And that's the ebb and flow you see with them is pretty interesting.
Here's Christopher Lopez on to attempt a 38-yard field goal and sneaks that one just inside the upright. Well, the offense adds 3 points to the ledger, grabs a 2-point lead here in our 2nd quarter. in Little Rock. 8 our score. The all-important track of this contest. And a lot of questions surrounding the Hogs' offensive line this year, but certainly one of the mainstays and perhaps one of the best guards in the SEC. Now, the interesting component to Chad Morris's offense is he has won, and he's won a lot of games without having the most physically dominant offensive front. He did it at SMU. Backside pressure, that'll be a point as Randy Ramsey curled around the backside. Offense takes over. Story remains on the field. Malik Williams will dance outside and pick up about 9, maybe 10. And Chris Doring has more. Chris?
No, I think it's always interesting when the new coaching staff comes in. You look at the roster and you're like, who are some of the guys that maybe haven't stepped up in the past or haven't heard the right voice or haven't been put in the right position to be successful? I played with a guy at Florida, 2-time SEC Player of the Year, and Shane Matthews. He was 5th on the depth chart when Steve Spurrier took over in 1990. Obviously worked his way up. So some guys on this roster right now we haven't heard from in the past at Arkansas are going to be able to make some plays under Chad Morris and his new staff schemes.
And Chris, one of the Clemson, and that might be a reach considering what's going on in Clemson currently, but it's the facilities. You know, these facilities are beginning to stack up with many places in all the country.
Arkansas expected to be in close competition with this current crop on campus. The pass sails wide.
Got to make those
receiver,
throws.
right?
And consider the ball handling that just took place. If we have an angle of that, we can show a replay of it. But it's a zone read inside. You have to pull it, and then Cole Kelly has to get his feet right and hit an open receiver. It doesn't get more open than that in college football. You have to drop that in the pocket and let your receiver walk into the end zone. Those are the type of throws that are directly tied to Cole Kelly's feet, and his feet weren't right on that play.
Well, Michael Woods, though, you're talking about missing the throw. Michael Woods is a freshman early enrollee, has already made a couple big plays today. He's been really consistent throughout the spring so far. This guy should be getting ready to go to high school prom. He's out here balling in the spring game.
No kidding, and he's probably, Chris, the MVP of that receiving group in the spring. It isn't like he's just flashed once or twice. He's been getting it done at a high level from the get-go.
Originally committed to SMU, followed the staff here to Arkansas and paying dividends in this red-white spring game already.
And Chris, what are you seeing out of the receivers? Because I know that quarterbacks are hesitant right now, but some of that hesitation is I don't see a ton of separation down the field in a lot of things.
Yeah, there's not a ton of separation right now. We haven't seen a whole lot of route running. You know, I think maybe some of the most successful throws so far today have been the deep balls. A lot of deep ones, as we see right here. Great job of holding on to that one. Takes a big hit from the safety coming over, able to get his feet down and secure the catch. But the thing that I've seen is a lot of go routes. It's been difficult, too, with the wind and the way that's disrupted the ability for these quarterbacks to throw accurately. But right now, there has not been a lot of room for which Kelly and Story have been able to try to fit it in there to these receivers.
And that was Michael Petway, who is headed
down the field, and a pitch and catch. O'Grady with a touchdown reception, his second of the afternoon.
That was essentially this same scheme. So obviously that position is an important one.
Here's Story rolling right, lofts it deep, and it will be incomplete. Trying to spot Tyson Morris, who's already caught 2 passes today.
Linebacker type, but he's in the nickel, so he's going to have to defend a lot of times slot type receivers, and we saw it on that play. That route came from within the slot, and McClure breaks on it and makes a really nice finish.
Morris for a gain of 15. That was the 3rd penalty on the defense today. And here comes the tempo with time winding down in our first half. Ramsey, backside pressure. Randy Ramsey, his 2nd sack. Do you count those as sacks when you don't have to bring them down? You just play two-hand touch?
In this game, yes.
Okay.
In this game, you do. But Randy Ramsey is another one of those guys. Edge rusher. He was an outside linebacker in the 4-3, and now he plays 2 positions. He becomes kind of a swing guy on the defensive line of scrimmage. They start with him inside, but he can also play defensive end. And if you have a guy like Gabe Richardson flashing a little bit in the spring, he's thrown some balls that have been dropped, but I think he's making quicker decisions. He seems to be in the rhythm of this offense a little bit more as we see the ball get knocked away right there. And Jamari Bell is actually the number 86, the defensive end that knocks that ball away. He's another potential fresh start type of guy who's been kind of set aside, and Bell knocks the ball away from Ty Story there. But we were assessing the quarterbacks, and I think Cole Kelly has showed up well here today.
It was Michael Taylor rumbling down the near sideline after Bell snuck in there, and big number 91 got his mitts on it.
And Bell has been a guy who has tremendous talent. He was a recruit that was really well hyped, and he's broke a foot early in his career. He's been defensive end, he's been to tight end, he's been to linebacker, and now he's back to defensive end and could potentially be one of those guys that Chris referred to that could come hard off the edge for John Chavis. Linger out there, but I like his skill set a lot.
So Hyatt in for his second snap around the left side, flashing a little speed on the edge. And he'll be whistled down around the 35. Forward in the right direction. Agree?
Yeah, I agree. If they can get bowl eligible, that is a huge win. There's some great hitting going on out there right now.
That was Taylor.
I think in that Bell's on there at Auburn is going to obviously have a tough one. That's going to be a good team once again, but so you're really looking for a must-win.
Yeah, I got the man here, head strength and conditioning coordinator, True Carroll. True, you came in here. I know you've been impressed with the shape that the guys were in, but you're looking for them to do a little something different. You're with Coach at SMU. What have you tried to do to get these guys in the shape that they need to be to play at the tempo they need to play at?
Really, the biggest difference is just the tempo and what they play with. We try to really replicate that within the training that they do. Obviously, being a direct guy under Rob Glass, we're going to spend a ton of time in the rack. You know, we're going to spend a lot of time in the rack, but also focusing on guys' mobility as well as recovering them.
So these guys have probably never run as much as what they're being asked to run in this offense, what you guys have done here. I know Coach Morris likes to say, strain them to train them. Has that been the case with you in the weight room and out on the field?
Absolutely. We want to train these guys to strain to finish, and the more we can do that within the strength and conditioning program, the more that's going to happen out here on the football field.
How do you train them to be fast but yet have the endurance to go with as many plays or as required on an 8, 9, 10 play drive that plays at the pace you guys do?
You know, really, our job as strength and conditioning coaches is to get those guys ready for practice. Those skills are acquired throughout the practice, so we get them in practice shape, and the practice actually gets them into that game condition.
Coach, appreciate your time, man. Good luck this season.
I want that guy to be my strength and conditioning coach. That's what you have to sound like.
You want that guy's voice.
Yes, I do.
You want Coach True's voice.
That was
fantastic.
That was fantastic.
And really consider this when you talk about
That's the one word Chad Morris used perhaps more than any. He talks about pace and tempo, but to be able to finish, to play well when you're tired, as that touchdown will be on the board for Malik Williams, was one of the missing ingredients last year in some close losses.
Exactly.
And I think this staff and many of the fans have identified that. And the new quarterback is Jack Lindsey, the sophomore from Fayetteville and grandson of the former Arkansas captain from the '64 national championship team. Jim Lindsey was his grandfather. And a punishing run again for Malik Williams. Williams impressed you in practice.
Joe Craddock and Chad Morris. I bet he knows their game quite well.
Well, it's interesting, too, as this pass is lobbed and caught. And out of bounds for Enlow for a nice pickup into plus territory. That's a gain of 32. Chris, what does Jared think?
So my guys up in the booth want to know how much film you've watched on SMU. I mean, Sutton, very productive career last year. Have you taken a look at those guys?
Oh yeah, Cortland, Sutton, Trey Gwynn. You know, I've watched all their film from SMU and just seen what those guys have done and what they're capable of doing in an offense like this. You know, it does nothing but get you excited.
What excites you the most about what you've seen from them and maybe projecting how you stack up to what they do?
Just the amount of opportunities they have from game to game. You know, you're getting about 120 plays per game. So, you know, that's if you get the ball half the time, that's 60 plays. So, just the opportunity is outrageous right now. God, that was a big hit.
Guys, you don't have the camera down here. You should see the smile on his face, though. I know he's looking for a big year.
Hey, Chris, ask Jared this for me. Where in this offense, you know, it would have been great for him to get the reps in spring because it's such a rhythm offense. Obviously, he's learning something new. How well was he able to kind of simulate things and pick this up even though he wasn't able to play in the live events?
They want to know how well you were able to simulate even though you haven't been able to play in this live event here, I mean, you've gone pretty much full the rest of the spring. How have you been able to get a feel for what they're asking you to do, the pace of this offense with which you want
Pick in about 30 days as well.
Yeah, he has that alpha look to him. A 6'4" guy that you can set out to one side at the next level and say, go beat their guy, and get paid a lot of money for doing it.
Chris Doering now with Chad Morris to wrap things up. Chris?
Coach, winding things down today, what has you optimistic the fall from what you've seen today?
Well, just a lot of energy out here. These guys are getting better. We'll continue to push forward through summer and getting our third quarter phase. So, I'm just excited about these guys. I mean, obviously coming in, changing the entire system has been a challenge for these guys, but they've picked it up really well. So we'll keep moving, keep moving forward.
You've related it to drinking from a fire hose today. In order to play fast, you got to know what you're doing. How far along do you think these guys are in getting them to where you need to be?
Well, every day's a journey. Every day's a progress. Just taking one step forward, getting 1% better every day. So, we'll keep putting it on them. And but again, I'm pleased with the way these guys performed today. And just we're a long way to go, but we're getting there.
You actually got 2 more days of practice before spring wraps up. What do you do to go back and look at what you did and maybe correct things and set things forward going into the summer?
Yeah, we'll obviously just kind of go back over this film today, do corrections on Monday. It'll be kind of our last full kind of a contact day, and then Wednesday's our last practice where we'll get ready for summer.
All right, Coach. Looking forward to your tenure here at Arkansas, and good luck the rest of the way.
Absolutely. Thank you. Go Hogs.
He's learned from some of the best, including Auburn head man Gus Malzahn, Dabo Swinney at Clemson, Todd Graham, an offensive minded team that they had at Tulsa.
Well, hope springs eternal. It also springs very cold. It was across the South for spring games, including in Little Rock, where they held the Arkansas spring game, War Memorial Stadium. Chad Morris, first-year head coach there with Arkansas. What are we going to see from his club? Well, a lot of plays. How about Cheyenne O'Grady going the rest of the way? 53 yards for the touchdown for the tight end. Yeah, call it 7-0. Call it 13-10 defense. You always see some different scoring here. Cole Kelly, 6'7", 260. Delivers to Michael Petway down the sideline, out of bounds. Petway had 6 catches, 91 yards. Chad Morris said he wanted to set a record for number of plays in the spring game. He had 109. I don't know if that's in the record books or not. But 2 plays later, O'Grady, the junior to be, the tight end, second touchdown of the day. Kelly goes 10-19 in the game. Later, Jamario Bell, he started defensive end, tight end, outside linebacker. Yeah, his home is on defense. One of his 2 sacks on the day. Strips Ty Story fully closed. Michael Taylor, the second, scoops a lot of green grass. That'll help. Razorbacks making some plays on both sides of the ball. And Morris's debut in front of the home fans, trying to forget that 4-8 campaign from a season ago. White, 27. Red, 25.
Our next guest was a contender. David Basil played something or other. What did he play? What position? I don't know what he was. What position did you play, Basil?
Linebacker.
Linebacker. He could have been the next Leroy Jordan. Instead, he's stuck in Arkansas doing TV. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul.
It's so good to have you back. It's been too long. A lot of people are wondering about the Chad Morris era in Fayetteville. We've seen the spring game. I realize it may not have been the greatest indicator on a cold, rainy, snowy, sleety day, but what did you read out of it?
Yeah, Paul, full disclosure, as a former player, I hated spring practice, never liked going through it. And as a matter of fact, my first 3 years under Lou Holtz, I missed every spring practice because of injury and ended up getting the last 2 under Ken Hatfield. And most of the time as a player, you just want to get through it, get to the end, unless you're, battling for position. And I think you see a lot of SEC schools with, the quarterback question. And so I think, that's the big thing everybody wanted to talk about. Would you see some separation? We've had, 5 years of Allen brothers as quarterback. Of course, last year, Austin Allen got injured and Cole Kelly came in and played some. But, that was sort of the story. And, it's sort of like you said, I don't know if you can take a whole lot out of a spring game. It was miserable conditions. You saw some of the players do well, some average, some a little bit better. I think the big picture, Paul, is that Arkansas is still, the only way Chad Morris is going to, bring this program out of where it's at is he's got to do that through recruiting. And, I mean, if you just from the eye test, they just don't have enough horses. They've got some decent players, don't get me wrong, but they just got to get more players in there for sure.
David, this is all a reflection on the past and not on Chad Morris, but in terms of actual talent, when was the last time you remember this program having as little talent in the hopper as Arkansas does right now?
You know, I cannot remember, Paul. I've been in the state for almost 40 years since I came from Florida, and I can't recall. You know, even the Danny Ford years where you were not winning, you had talent there. I've always said, you know, you better have 5 to 10 guys that have the opportunity to play on Sunday. They're going to get drafted. They're going to have legit chances, free agents to play. You can't be, you know, not everybody can be like Alabama or Georgia and have, you know, 15 guys or, you know, that are going to be playing on Sunday. But you better make sure you've got 5 to 10. And, you know, the year 3 for Brett Bielema, you saw a little bit of that. You had Trey Flowers and Darius Philon and a few other guys that, you know, are playing in the league now. But, you know, the last couple of years it's dropped off. And I can't remember seeing, even Chad Morris has come in and said the overall team speed is lacking. Physical up front on both sides of the ball. I don't know if we've just, you know, Arkansas has just missed on players or what the deal is, but from an overall total number of just NFL-type players, this is probably the lowest I can recall ever seeing it.
David, you watch this program pretty closely, and I know it's always easy now to say, well, Brett Bielema did this wrong or that wrong, but as it was unfolding, what were you seeing? And I know sometimes you don't want to just spit it out in cold blood, but what were your thoughts, and where did it go wrong?
Yeah, that's been talked about quite a bit, Paul. If you think about it, you know, the last 5 years under Brett Bielema, you averaged 2 SEC wins, but that third year you hit that 8-win mark, and you think maybe he's turned the corner, and then you lose some pretty good assistants. You lose, you know, you've already lost Chaney. You lose Sam Pittman as well. And so he had a pretty good turnover of assistant coaches. And you know, in this league, in the SEC, there's a lot of great coaches, assistant coaches, and you better make sure you have some of them. So I think that caught him a little bit. And then the thing that really had been his calling card, Paul, is the offensive line. You know, the first 3 years, if you remember Brett Bielema, they had the fewest number of sacks allowed in the SEC. That was under Sam Pittman. The last 2 years, they gave up the most. 70 sacks in the last 2 years. And so, you know, what you saw on the line, you just really saw a void of those outstanding offensive linemen that, you know, you sort of saw early on in that first couple of classes that Brett Bielema signed, and it caught up with the Hawks pretty quick as Austin Allen ran for his life there those last 2 years.
So now that Morris is in, and by the way, I mean, we're seeing an offense we haven't seen anything that resembles this in a long time. Certainly Petrino had things going, but how long does this offense take to really start clicking, and what does he need to make it significantly competitive?
Well, you know, obviously, you know, you got to run the ball in the SEC, which he knows. But to me, it's predicated on a quarterback that can, you know, you got to have a great quarterback in his system. I mean, a guy that can make a lot of reads and that understands the offense. They don't have enough speed on the outside to be threat deep. We saw that in the spring game, so he mentioned that. You got to have more speed in the passing game. And my big concern, Paul, I still go back to the offensive line. I'm still a little concerned. You got a lot of returning starters from last year, but that could be a good or a bad thing. So I just think everything that's got to get upgraded. The offensive line does. You got to have more speed at receiver, and you got to find a quarterback that can play. So, you know, really, the answer to your question is everything. I think the running back position, I think, Paul, you've got some good running backs there, but I think the question is who's going to be the quarterback, just like at Florida, just like at some other places. Who can be the guy that can run Chad Morris's offense? Because it's fast, Paul. We didn't see it Saturday. It was nothing like it's going to be. But it's the thing where he's you know, that ball is being snapped as quick as possible. But, you know, the big thing, to be honest with you, Paul, if you look at last year, offense wasn't the problem. They were ranked 62nd in scoring. You know, there's only 129 Division I FBS teams. The Razorback defense, I think, was ranked 112 out of 129 in scoring defense, giving up points. They gave up 36 points. So John Chavis, to me, has really got the biggest job here, Paul. And I think Saturday, probably the defense looked better than any probably team unit there, and the defensive backs looked probably the best of anybody.
Let me follow up on Chavis because he's been around. We know his roadmap the last 10 or 15 years, and some were surprised when they learned that he had been hired there. We've seen some good indicators, but what are your impressions of Chavis so far?
Well, I mean, certainly there's been some, criticism of, he didn't achieve a lot at A&M his last few years with the talent that he had, and that's, that can be a fair assessment. But, one of the things that Arkansas's got to do, Paul, I don't care if you get run over or outrun. Just be in the right place when you get outrun or get, run over. That's one thing that John Chavis can do. He can coach the X's and O's. He brings some of his other assistants that Arkansans are familiar with. Steve Caldwell, longtime assistant with him at Tennessee. I do think it's interesting, Paul. Arkansas, I believe, has the youngest offensive coordinator and the oldest defensive coordinator in the SEC. Joe Craddock, 32. John Chavis, 61 years old. So I think he brings the mentality. I think he wants to prove some people wrong, Paul. I think he's heard the criticism and that maybe he's over the hill and, his time's up. And listen, this defense is really what's needed the biggest help the last couple of years, because as you saw, Arkansas could not stop anybody the last couple of years.
David, we've occasionally peeked in on the schedule, and there aren't, the schedule doesn't have that non-conference game that is as frightening as we have seen in recent years, but there's still some prickly games, I guess you could say. I know that these are questions that people hate. We're talking about Eastern Illinois, at Colorado State, North Texas, and Tulsa. But when you consider that Alabama is on the schedule, a road game at Auburn, a road game at Mississippi State, the usual suspects, although it's a little bit easier on the other side, considering that Missouri and Vanderbilt are the crossovers. What's realistic for this year?
Well, it's really 2 3-game seasons, Paul. You just mentioned it. Eastern Illinois, Colorado State, North Texas. Can you get 3 out of that? You go 2-1, I don't know, but you got 3 potential wins there. Then you got Auburn, A&M, and Alabama. Odds are you're not going to get a win there. Then you got Ole Miss, Tulsa, Vanderbilt. Can you get 3 wins out of there? They beat Ole Miss last year, barely. Tulsa and Vanderbilt are teams that could be beaten. Then you got LSU, Mississippi State, Missouri. So, I think the reality, you're in that 5 to 6 range this first year, and I think Razorback fans are going to be patient. They know they got a ways to go, and again, I think recruiting, developing your talent is going to be the key. I just don't think the Razorback fans are going to be too hard and heavy on Chad Morris if he only wins 5 or 6 games. Listen, you know how it is. Some people are picking 7, 8 wins already, but you look at that schedule. And I think if you get to 6 wins, I think it'd be a major success this year, to be honest with you.
Always a major success when you have David Basil as a guest on the Feinbaum Show. David, always a pleasure. We will see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks.
And you know who will be coming to the podium? That is the Commissioner Greg Sankey, introducing Arkansas head football coach, making his debut on the podium.
Back for coach number 3 on day 2, who is a native of Dallas. Chad Morris is a highly successful high school coach across the state of Texas, led teams to 6 Texas State championship game and 3 state titles, and Coach of the Year honors at that level for on 11 occasions. He took over a 1, led them to bowl eligibility, but is noted for his offensive leadership and vision, went from last in the FBS scoring. Prior to his taking over into a top 10 offense nationally, my privilege to introduce the new coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, Chad Morris.
All right. Not so sure if that's my water or the previous coach's water that was up here. So I brought my own here to get this thing started. So, man, just wow. Just want to thank everybody. I want to thank the College Football Hall of for putting on this spectacular event. It was quick to notice as soon as you pulled up that football season's on us. And man, I want to thank you all for coming out and having an interest in the Arkansas Razorbacks. I've bumped into several of you in the hallway that I've seen from some of my prior stops, and I look forward to catching up and shaking your hand. I'm just excited to be here and to be a part of the SEC Media Days. It means so much to me and my in a position and put on a platform to be able to impact lives in the manner that which we do. And man, when you get to these media days at this point, I remember previous stops, that once the SEC Media Days started coming on TV, you know football season was right on you. It was the kickoff of the season, and man, I'm excited to watch our guys compete, and I know we'll talk about that throughout the course of the day. My family and I are honored to be a part of the University of Arkansas and the great storied tradition of Razorback football from Razorbacks past, present, and future. It's truly an honor to be the head football coach there and be a part of the Razorbacks and be surrounded by all the great players and coaches that are a part of these media days. Again, it's an honor that we take and excited about. It's been 223 days since we started, and since we got to Fayetteville, since the plane landed, and a lot of things have happened between then and now. And there's a lot of similarities from some of my previous stops as we build this program moving forward and taking on the blueprint to turn this program around into a championship caliber team. The alumni and the fans, the entire state has welcomed us with open arms. The passion for the Hogs, for the Razorbacks, for the university, I thought I knew. I had no clue until I traveled around our great state and to hear the stories that have been told and been able to listen to and share with me their special place in their heart for the Razorbacks. Arkansas football has had a storied past, and we're going to work daily. With a national championship of 1964, we're going to work daily to build on and restore the traditions for the Razorbacks of the past, the Razorbacks of the present, and the Razorbacks of the future. And we got a long way to go. Make no mistake about it. But I've been extremely impressed with Trumaine Carroll, our head strength coach, and his staff, and what they've done in the 223 days that we've been there and transforming our players to where we are at this point in time today. Again, I look forward to watching these guys as we kick this season off in the next few weeks. The three players that we have with us here today, they're great players. More importantly, they're great men. They're great leaders and great students. And I know you're going to enjoy your time today getting to know each and every one of them. Offensive lineman Yelda Froholt from Denmark is scheduled to graduate in December, a leader in our offensive line. Linebacker Dre Greenlaw, a young man from Fayetteville High School and from our state. A local young man that is also scheduled to graduate in December, one of the leaders in our defensive unit at linebacker. And in defensive back, Santos Ramirez, a graduate Santos Ramirez, which I'm extremely proud to announce. He'll be wearing the graduate patch, the SEC patch on his jersey this year. Excited about that. So our staff over the last 223 days have been busy recruiting, hitting the ground full speed ahead, developing our culture, developing these young what we want to turn this program around, and we're looking for guys that want to be their best. That's it. Because best is our standard. Of our program is geared toward developing these young men into becoming the best they can be. And that's all I ask. I'm asked to give you my absolute best today, and that's what we ask of each and every one of our players, to be the best. And that's how we're going to build this program. I've said it before, but the time is now and the place is here. Fayetteville, Arkansas is a special place. I've had an opportunity to watch several games there as a fan, and to see the fan base, to watch the excitement level. And now that we're enclosed in the North End Zone complex and getting it completed, I look forward to making that one of the toughest places to play in all of college football. Offensively, Joe Craddock's our offensive coordinator, one of the bright young minds in all of college football. Offensively, we'll be fast-paced, we'll be up-tempo. We want to be a two-back, run-oriented first football team, taking play-action shots down the field. But I also know this, that being a high school coach for as long as I have, sometimes you got to adapt to what you have. And so that'll be the coaching. That'll be the interesting part as this season unfolds. Defensively, John Chavis. When I got the job, I had one phone call that I made, and it was to John Chavis. And reached out to Chief, and having played against Chief, as a matter of fact, here in Atlanta, in a bowl game, and knowing the difficulty in preparing for his style excited me. I want to be multiple, I want to be aggressive, and I want to put pressure, and I want to disrupt the quarterback. And that was what I was looking for. And Coach Chavis came to mind right off, and I'm excited about him. As I shared with him, I said, Coach Chavis, I believe I can help you in your career because if you can defend me and defend our offense, you can defend a lot of people across the country. And I believe that he has things of value that help our offense, and we've got things to help our defense grow as the game of football continues to change. Special teams, Tanner Burns is our special teams analyst, and each and every coach has a special teams responsibilities, but we all know the value of special teams with the rules that are changing now on the kickoff return and kickoff. It will be interesting to see how the strategy unfolds. So I'm excited about that, but special teams is nothing more than a mindset. And it's a mindset that these units will win you football games. It's each and every day are reserved for only those guys that want to be elite. So we're going to be aggressive and on the cutting edge in all aspects of our game. And we have a great group of young men in our locker room that have looked and worked extremely hard and locking arms with a brand new coaching staff and buying into a culture, and look forward to locking arms with the greatest fan base in college football and calling the Hogs in the greatest state to become one Arkansas. And that's my goal, is to become one Arkansas and everybody come together, because that's truly what it's going to take, is for us to unite and come together. I'm back. And with that, I'll open up for questions.
All right, thank you, Coach. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We have Amanda, Victoria, and Jean-Louise that will get a microphone to you. So we'll go ahead and start down up front here on the left with Tom.
Hey, Chad. Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. The expectations that you're going to have for this team, I think a lot of the magazines and probably from here might put you last in the SEC West. Just how will you deal with that with your team, and what are your expectations?
You know, Tom, and I've been asked that, the expectations. And, no one's going to put any more higher expectations on this program than I am. And, whether we're picked to finish first or finish last is irrelevant at this point in time. As the way I've looked at it, nobody's played a snap yet. And there's a lot to prove. One thing that is I've shared with our players, because we've heard it, and our players have heard it. You can't help but not to hear it. Is how hungry is this football team going to be because of it? And we got a lot of returning starters, a lot of returning lettermen, and that experienced the season that they had last year. And I've said it before, and 4-8 is not acceptable. It's not acceptable whoever the coach is. And regardless of that. And so these young men have had to feel that. They've had to have that bitter taste in their mouth. And it's something that they've worked extremely hard about. So those that pick, they don't understand what's happening inside that locker room and the development of these young men. And that, Tom, is what excites me.
Coach, we'll go over to our right, about 3 rows back. Go ahead.
Brent Zorneman, Houston Chronicle. How special is it that you're coaching in the same division as your alma mater, and do you like the idea of playing the Aggies in Arlington every year?
Well, first of all, from just being a high school football coach, being a high school football coach and to be set here on this stage in the SEC, There's a lot of high school coaches out there right now that are watching, and they're saying, you know what, if that guy can do it, I want to do it. And so for me to have the platform as a high school coach to represent the high school coaches all across the country, regardless of what state, because I've recruited across this entire country, and to see the phenomenal high school coaches, and to know that, man, there's an opportunity that one day I could be there. One day I could coach in the SEC. I could be on that stage as a head football coach. That excites me. Being from the state of Texas, playing the teams that we play, we've got a lot of teams to play before we get to the one in Arlington. And so we're going to focus first and foremost on the Arkansas Razorbacks and becoming the best we can be every day. And I'm excited regardless where we play. That's just who I am. And if you know me, and obviously you probably do from my high school background, and I'm just excited about the opportunity to impact lives. And coaching football is what we do, but it's not who I am.
Coach, we'll go back over here to the left on the 3rd row.
Hey, Aaron Reese with the Kansas City Star. As you've gotten to know the program a little bit, know people around it and the fans, I'm curious, do you get a sense of who Razorback supporters view as their rival in the league?
Who our rival is?
Yeah, who would you view it as?
Well, right now, I would say our biggest rival is the Arkansas Razorbacks. As and that's been my mindset pushing forward. Each and every day, we talk about the team right now that is capable of defeating us are ourselves, and it's our actions and how we approach. And I know I may sound like I'm giving coach speak, but this is truly how we live, and this is how we operate and how we build this program, is being the best we can be. Now, I do know that there's several trophies that we have. We play several trophy games, and one is played in Arlington, and the other is the battle line between the two states. And so, I'm excited about that. We've got, I think there's three trophies we're playing for, and so apparently there's a lot of rivalries. But I know that we got a rivalry coming up on the very first game of the year that we better be focused first and foremost on and be ready to play. So we'll get to those. I'm sure I'll continue to hear more and more. As I traveled the state, everybody has their own rival. And each rival tells me, and if you'll just beat this team, this is who we're rival with. And I said, well, wait a minute. I thought that was who we were rivaled with. And, well, if you beat this one, a lot of sins will be forgiven, Coach, if you'll do this for us. And I just, hey, look, let's just focus on being the best we can be one day at a time.
Coach, we'll go straight in front of us, 4 rows back. Trey.
Hey, Coach. Trey Biddy with Hog Sports, 24/7 Sports. I think one of the reasons for our low expectations from the media side of things is uncertainty at the quarterback position. Where are you right now with the quarterback battle? How do you plan on determining who's going to be the quarterback? How things have gone in the summer also?
Yeah, Trey, one of the things that, and if I knew the answer to the quarterback scenario that we have working right now, believe me, we would put it out there and let y'all run with it, but we don't. But what I do know is this. This is what I do know about our quarterbacks. I do know that when we walked off the field on that snowy, sleet, cold, rainy, sunshine day and at our spring game there in Little Rock, I do know this, that the development of the quarterback was going to be determined from that day to the start of fall camp. And all great quarterbacks that I've been associated with and been around have all grown more in the time of summer development to where they're placed in a leadership position and placed in a role to whether young men are going to gravitate to them and be led by them through summer workouts when it's their skills and drills which led on their own. And so we'll see. I've met with several of them, or we've met with all of them, but I know that we're going to have a great competition going on, which is healthy. It's healthy at all positions, and I'm excited. And once we do name one, it doesn't mean that you sign a lifetime contract. There is no lifetime contract at the quarterback position, and so it's a continuous battle every day. But we fully anticipate naming one for sure at some point in time during fall camp. But I'm excited about these guys. They've really each one of them is worked on their craft and in a way their weakness that they needed to through the course of summer.
Okay, we'll go to the front row on the left, Bob.
Hey, Chad. Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Hey, you got the news a while back that Kevin Richardson's going to get a 6th year of eligibility. How good was that? What does that mean for your defense?
Kevin Richardson was, I believe K-Rich came to this last year as a leader. And so there was a lot of uncertainty through the course of winter. And there for a while, he was unable to work out with us. And then he gets cleared to start working out, and still we didn't know his certainty till late into spring. And, just to watch that young man lead, Bob, he didn't know if he was going to be cleared to play or not, and still watch him interact with his teammates. You knew this young man was special. And now that, after knowing him like I do now and watching him transform from the summer or through the summer and with everybody. When he speaks, people listen, and he's got that charisma about him that's very exciting. He is a leader, and he's got a great future, whether when his football career is over, in leading people, and leading men and women, because that's what he is. And I'm excited. I'm excited about his experience that he's bringing back to this defense.
Which will go over to our right, near the back.
Josh Vitale, Opelika, Auburn News. I know you've had a relationship with Gus Malzahn dating back to your high school days. What has that relationship meant to you in your career? And what's it like being a SEC head coach in the same division as him now?
Yeah, well, it's let me go way back. And absolutely, Gus and I have had a relationship going back to the very early 2000s. And I consider him a very dear friend for 364 days a year. And you know, we've played against each other before, and but he's been very instrumental into me standing on this stage today. And so from a time way back, from a high school football coach that had been successful and had fallen on a bad year and needing to look at the change, and to reach out to someone that didn't know me and I didn't know him, and him to lend a helping hand to me, really allowed me to continue to progress my career. And since then, he and I have been friends. We've talked ball every year, and I definitely consider him and his wife Christy, Paula, and I consider them very dear friends, and have helped me get to where we are today. And you know, I'm excited for his career, and I'm excited for the matchup. Obviously, being in the same division, but it's it's unique. This is a fraternity. It's a great fraternity, and you get to really interact. And at one time a year, you get to go against each other.
Okay, we'll go over here to the left in the middle.
Hi, Coach Moritz, Brody Marino, Red RCFB. Obviously, you're well renowned for your high school coaching career, but during that same time, I understand that you were also a teacher. I'm just curious to say, what was your experience, doing that, and how has that really kind of transferred to recruiting and in the locker room, obviously?
Well, let's start first with being a teacher. Outside of my mom and dad influencing my life, and I know they're watching today, I wouldn't be where I am today without a high school coach and teacher impacting my life, and touching my life and seeing something in me that others didn't see, and pushing me on beyond my limits. And so impacting my life to get into to teaching and teaching math. I majored in math, minored in statistics, and being able to go in and teach math and impact lives is critical. I do not believe there's such thing as a great coach and not a good teacher. I think as you look across our country and you look at the high school coaches that impact lives, we're in a society right now that is so needs so many male figures to impact lives. And high school coaches are where it's at, and teachers are where it's at. And to know that our teachers out there, and for me to be able to say that and stand in front of you and say that I've proudly been a teacher and I've proudly been a high school coach, and proudly to say that my wife was a teacher for 16 years. And so teaching is what we do, and we teach every day. We impact lives, we teach every single day, and that doesn't change whether you're in the classroom or out of the classroom. And so that is a great profession and a great question. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back down here to the left. Tom, first row.
Tom.
Question. When you were studying for your mathematics degree, matriculating at A&M, how were you loving football at that time? And then how did you make the transition from being the football coach?
Yeah, really it started, I was going to get in the actuarial field. That's what I was going to do. And I'd taken a series of actuarial exams. And my wife and I got engaged. And I said, I wanted to, what can I do to continue to take these exams and still impact lives? And what can we do? And I knew that there was a shortage of math teachers. And so I reverted straight back to my math teacher, which so happened to coach me, and I modeled my teaching after the way he taught me. And so that's how I got in it, and I always got into it thinking that I very well may get out of the business, but every time that something would come up, the kids, the players, and that we were teaching and coaching would just say, Coach, this is you're making a difference. This is incredible, what you're teaching us, and not just me, but our staff, and so that's and I just kept coming back that this is what God's called me to do and where to be.
We'll go all the way to the back, straight ahead.
Coach Morris, Drew DeArmond, WZZN Radio, Huntsville, Alabama. I wanted to ask you about a member of your coaching staff. He's been with you all the way back to the Clemson days. He was a high school star for a legend, Fred Yancey, at Briarwood Christian, and he was a great player at Middle Tennessee and has transitioned into the coaching fraternity. What did you see in Joe Craddock that made him special? And also talk about your offensive philosophy. You're known as an up-tempo guy, and just talk about Joe Craddock's impact on your program and what you expect to do offensively at Arkansas.
Well, let me start with talking about Joe. And Joe Craddock is as I mentioned earlier, one of the bright young minds in college football. And when he got to us in Clemson, when Coach Sweeney hired him, and he basically started out sweeping the weight room floors. He and our offensive line coach, Dustin Fry, started that, and they worked their way up. And I knew he had something to him when one of our very first offensive meetings, when it was over with, we talked, and he didn't say anything. He sat over at the corner and he didn't say anything. And that's a lot of young guys, young analysts or young GAs that get in this business. They sit and they listen. There's a lot of people that have been in this business a long time that know. And if you'll listen, you'll learn. But when it was over with and the guys walked out, I remember he and I walked out the door together. And he said, Coach, I want to ask you a couple questions about ball. And we started talking, and for 5 minutes led to an hour, and we're on the board in there, and he's drawing up some things, and we're talking. And I said, man, this guy's got something to him. I want to see how he responds to players, how he reacts, how when something goes wrong, how does he develop himself, and or how does he continue to grow and handle the tough situations. And then it just one thing, it just continued to grow, and Joe was part of our game planning, and I trusted him more every day. He helped me with the quarterbacks, and I knew he had a great storied past in Alabama and coaching and playing and high school ranks, and obviously Middle Tennessee. And this guy is he's on cutting edge. He and I think very, very similar, and you have to. You've been together 7 years. He and I work together and call into plays. He calls the plays, but he and I are constant communication. But I am excited about that. And offensively, we're going to be who we are. I mean, that's what we do. We're going to be a very fast-paced two-back, motioning in and out of structure, changing the tempo. Tempo at times is a buzzword that's used to think that you just go fast the whole time, when truly tempo is the ability to change the pace of a game. Go fast, huddle up a little bit, maybe break a huddle fast, maybe go slow, check the sideline. That's the ability to change the tempo of a game. And talking to defensive coordinators, they would much rather you play one speed, whether it's all fast or slow or huddle. Play that same speed the whole game. You work in their favor, but your ability to change the tempo causes people problems. And so, and that's who we're going to be. And we'll continue to evolve with the personnel that we have. Again, being a high school coach, you have to do that. We'll continue to play to our players' strengths.
All right, we've got time for a couple more. We'll start with Trey there.
Hey, Coach, Trey Biddy with Hog Sports again. Kind of a two-parter. There's been a lot of changes the last couple of years with rules and recruiting, and I was wondering your thoughts. Do you think the rules have been beneficial with moving the calendar up so much and the dead period we're currently in? And then also on that, with red shirts being allowed to play 4 games, how do you plan to implement that, or is it just very experimental for you right now?
I'm going to start with the last question there, Trey. I love the red shirt. I really do. I think it shows the development of these young men to where that maybe they're not ready early on, but you continue to keep them in the mix. You keep their interest. Sometimes when guys find out that they're redshirted early on in the past, they've kind of lost their focus, and all of a sudden an injury happens, and late in the year this young man's got to try to reel it back in, and he can't get there mentally. Where now it allows us to have these guys intact and to play them, and if they're not ready early on, in which we would never put a player on the field if they weren't mentally and physically ready to play in this league. And it may not happen early on for a true freshman, but it might later in the year. So I'm excited about that. And, so I do feel that the way the recruiting has changed with the early signing period, a year from now, and be able to address that same question with early signing period, I'm probably going to be very much in favor of it. But being a transition, one of the 6 coaches, I believe, that was part of the transition of the change of coming into a new place and signing a class on December 20th, it was awful. I mean, it was hard. You're trying to build a 2-year relationship in 20 minutes in a coach's office with a young man, and usually that player that you had to wind up pulling out of a review that may be getting ready for his final exam, or you're going into an in-home visit that a young man's preparing for final exams, and you're trying to give your whole spiel in 20 minutes at a dinner table, and you didn't have the luxury of the entire year of building that true relationship. So that was tough. I'm not gonna pull any punches about that. It was very difficult from a coaching change, but I look forward to, as we're developing into our next class, having those relationships sound and solid and be able to sign a great class.
Coach, we'll take one final question over to our left on the front row.
Coach Rod Walker with the New Orleans Advocate. What have you seen in Dejon Harris, and what does he bring to the defense?
Yeah, Ron, very outgoing, very much outspoken, and is not acceptable or not accepted with what happened last year. Takes on a lot of responsibility. Very accountable young man that is not going to be satisfied with being average, nor is he going to allow people around him to be average. A very versatile player. Now, I will tell you that, a player that can play multiple positions. He's a football player. I mean, that's what he is. He's just a really good football player that's got a great future ahead of him. And we talk all the time about just building your own house, just staying focused and working every day to be the best you can be. You want to get to, how's that going to happen? You got to work today, and he does that, and he models that, and I'm excited about watching that young man compete, as well as all our players, but watching him compete this year and set the standard for Razorback football.
All right, Coach Morris, welcome to the SEC, and thank you for your time.
All right, thank you all.
But we have a special guest sitting here, and it's all about keeping your eye on the clock. I don't know if that's an Apple Watch. I don't know if that's a stopwatch. But I do know one thing. There's a new sheriff in Fayetteville, and he is sitting with me right now. And Coach Chad Morris, so great to see you. I was just thinking, I was talking to one of your administrators a minute ago about where you were a year ago. Where were media days for SMU?
We were in Newport, Rhode Island.
Oh my goodness, you picked a good place. They have the clam bake and everything.
They did.
A little different?
Yeah, much different.
I mean, the food was better there, but not that you've had time to eat here.
No time to eat here right now.
What's it been like for you all day?
You know what, Paul? It's been great. To be able to meet so many people out here, and passionate people, and that love this sport and love this game and promoting this game, and to be a part of the greatest college conference and a conference in college football, and the greatest division. I'm just excited to be a part of this, Paul.
I've been part of many conversations today about your program, which is kind of silly since I don't really know that much about it. You're the coach, so I'll make it easy. Help me understand where this program is right now and your vision for the future.
Well, Paul, coming into the winter, I knew that we were changing a complete different style, different scheme, going to more of a, the no huddle, the spread, and I knew it was going to take some time. I knew that we had a lot of transformation that had to take place, and so that's what we've truly focused on, is developing these young men and trying to, get them into the shape that we need to play at a very high level, a very high speed that we play at offensively, and so that's what the focus has been on, and it's a process, and our guys have done a fabulous job, and I'm excited to see what this team's capable of doing this year.
A lot of people, if not everyone, has great faith in you offensively. That's not really the question. But you bring in the chief, you hand him the keys to the defense, which I guess is a relief for you. I know you look over there, but with a guy like John Chavis, you don't have to look over there very much. How can this defense get better or good enough to allow you to do what you need to do? Or maybe the other way around. I mean, it works both ways.
Yeah, you have to work together on this. That's number one. And I knew that, hiring a defense coordinator was going to be the biggest hire that I was going to have to make. And John Chavis was the number one call that I made. He's been there. He's experienced. He's got the most tenured coach in the SEC, and he knows what it's supposed to look like, Paul. And he knows what a roster, a defensive roster, what he wants, what it's supposed to be like, how we need to recruit to it. And I know going against him and playing actually right here in Atlanta when we played against him, and the defense that he had at LSU was very powerful. And the problems we had game planning for, I knew that's what I wanted. I wanted someone multiple, someone who's going to be attack and aggressive style of defense. And but to be able to get to where we want to get to, it's a part of the recruiting, it's part of the development. But there's a lot of young players on this roster that played last year, Paul, and we're excited to see what a Scooter Harris, what a Dre Greenlaw, and a Santos Ramirez can do in developing in this defense.
Coach, we spent 6-7 months explaining who you are. Most people knew who you were. You're certainly a huge part of Clemson's success. Your success at SMU is what helped get you this job. But in the SEC, it's about recruiting. And the question is very simply, how can Arkansas compete with the rest of the league?
Yeah, I think you have to look at where our footprint has to be. Obviously, my time at Clemson, developing relationships throughout the Southeast, is very instrumental in being able to go into the Southeast and pick players out that because of the relationships we have. But more importantly, Paul, we have to, when you look at the storied program of Arkansas and you look at when they won and how they won and what did the roster look like when they won, you won with Arkansas kids. Now, when I say that, Paul, you and I both know, on an average year, over the last 10 years, an average year, 3 to 4 to 5 kids come out, and 5 being a high end, come out that are SEC caliber players. Well, you have to get those kids.
Right.
You have to win those kids first. Then you dip into Memphis and the Tulsa area as part of a major footprint. But more importantly, you've got to get a roster with Texas kids on it. And my relationships there throughout that state, in Dallas, Houston, the East Texas market has got to be a big priority for us. And then getting into Louisiana with the relationships that John Chavis and the Ron Coopers and Steve Caldwells have, that's where the footprint has to be. And you can't lose focus of what that footprint is. And that's how we built it at Clemson. And that's exactly how we're going to build it here, is know what your footprint is, stay within the footprint. Doesn't mean you can't get out on occasion, but it better be because of relationship early on.
Every program has rivals, and at some point you have to beat the rivals. I had Coach Orgeron sitting right where you were, and he brought it up. He said, we got to beat Alabama. It's been since 2011. And this is not your fault. You just got here. But the inability to beat Texas A&M and the way those games have gone, I'm guessing, because I am not a recruiting expert, have not helped Arkansas in that all-important state of Texas. How do you turn that around?
Well, when I got there were 10 kids on the roster from the state of Texas, and there's no doubt when you're around the Dallas area and you see the alumni base there in Dallas, the impact that you can have in that game in Arlington is vital, and there's no question about that. That's a game that we have got to focus, and as all of them are, but that's one that's in our recruiting wheelhouse and our footprint, and an area we got to go in and put a great performance out.
When are you going to beat them?
Well,
we got a game scheduled.
yeah, well, I mean, we got a lot of games between now and then.
September 29th.
I hear you. I'm with you. There's a lot between now and then, and so but when we get to that point, we'll definitely be excited and ready to take a product on the field that everybody be proud of.
Coach, thank you very much. A pleasure to be with you again. Chad Morris joining us from the university.
Here with Coach Morris, we're going to kind of diagram the RPO, the run pass option. That's the in vogue thing now in college football. I think all you as fans, you hear it, but you might not always know exactly what it is, how do you execute it, and what are all the moving parts. So go ahead and take us through what you've drawn up here, and then I'll just kind of step in as you work through it.
Okay. So our quarterback in this case right now understands, first of all, it's a two-shell look. So it goes just like this. We have what's called a yes-no.
Okay.
That's his first thing. First thing he comes up, he's identifying the front. He sees us an under front. He checks his yes, no.
Okay.
So if they're playing off, then we got the capability of yes, knowing it out there.
Gotcha.
So we like it, let's take it. Well, right now, let's say that his traditional look here and a true two-shell look. Safety's lined up on or a little outside the hash, so we're thinking if he's on or outside, his chances are he's probably going to stay in that area. His body demeanor, the whole bit, so he's going no.
No, we don't have this over here.
Forget it.
We're
I'm out.
All right.
So I check it, I peek it, I'm out, and now my eyes roll to my box play. Now, here's where it comes in. The mic now advances in off of the ride. He sits in the box and he steps up. Great. We know now.
You've got that.
We want to throw it. Now, here's the coaching point out of this. We talked to this guy. His job is to go ball to backer.
Gotcha.
And the reason being for that is he has to become part of the protection game now.
Yeah.
And
even though this is all run game blocking up front, because you have your little 3-yard cushion there.
That's right.
All right.
So all these guys here, it's low hats. Key to this point is you have to give low hats.
Okay.
If you can give me low hats on that, then now it forces a lot of issues here because these guys read high hats, low hats. High hats, they know it's pass.
Yes.
So low hats, it's run all the way to them. Backer steps up. We're ball to backer. Now we pull, and we got him right there.
Now, the question, and I think the tweaks that defensive teams want to make. If you have the luxury of having tall personnel, particularly in the back end, whether it's a corner or a nickel, and they play in man-to-man, or they press you to try and take away the RPO, what's your answer?
Well, when you get that, and that's a great point right there, because what'll happen is you'll start getting a lot of one high look.
Correct.
On that.
Yeah.
So you're going to get this, and they're going to what we call cover down on you now. Now, when you get into that look there, then at that point right here, you've got to have your top receiver right here and creating a one-on-one. Again, it's all about creating one-on-one matchups at this point. So you get in a six-man box, and you look, running into a six-man box there is not the way. So what you have to do at that point is you have to say, am I going to read him, or am I going to pull him through and read him and let this guy become a runner out on the edge?
Right.
We're going to start in Fayetteville, where Arkansas's receivers grasp new look offense. The story by Tom Murphy in the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. The Arkansas receivers made Bomb Squad t-shirts this spring in anticipation of all the balls they're going to be getting this year. Here you see a look at the notable returning receivers. And plenty of depth there, a lot of experience coming back, especially senior Jared Cornelius, who has suffered a season-ending injury early last year. Now, Paul, we all have talked a lot about these new coaches. Chad Morris, a guy we haven't talked a whole lot about. Do you think he'll get Arkansas to a bowl game in year one?
I think he's going to come close. And, Jim, the reason I do think it's possible is that Arkansas' schedule is not that challenging. I mean, they got a tricky game, I believe. It's at Colorado State. If they can turn that, then I think the answer is yes.
Good point. They also draw Vanderbilt and Missouri from the East. So, yeah, very, very favorable there.
Camp Notes with Zim.
Well, thank you, Paul. We have a lot going on today in Camp Notes. We're going to jump right in. We're going to start today in Arkansas, where Arkansas's offensive line takes another hit. Coach Chad Morris has announced that senior tackle Dion Malone will miss the season with a knee injury. He's the third Razorback offensive lineman to be injured this offseason. Some depth issues there.
How are the Razorbacks going to do this year?
I think the Razorbacks are going to be okay. I think they have a really good shot at getting to a bowl game. I don't think they're going to be great, but I do think the season sets up pretty well because of the schedule. The non-conference schedule is manageable, and I believe Arkansas gets was it Vanderbilt and Missouri from the East. It's hard to do any better than that.
Yeah, but Missouri's going to be pretty good this year.
Well, they are, but would you rather play Georgia or Missouri?
I don't think that's the question.
Yeah. Well, I hear you. Well, yeah, there it is. So the schedule's on our screen. It's Eastern Illinois, Colorado State, North Texas, and Tulsa non-conference. Can't get any better than that if you're in the SEC. And your home games: Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, LSU, Alabama. It was going well for a while.
Ole Miss got him on, hasn't he?
Listen, I'm really glad to hear from you. You give us a call back. Thank you for the call.
White, go. Now work. Nobody's picking them to do anything, and I told them this last night. I love that. I love it. Lie in the weeds, lay camouflage, and strike when you're ready. You just tell us when we need to play and where we need to play, and we're going to be there. Let's go. Next play. Let's go.
Welcome to CST's Razorback Training Camp. He's Quinn Grovey, but you already knew that. I'm Brett Dolan. Great to have you with us for a new era in Razorback football. Chad Morris and his staff preparing for their first season with a left lane hammer down high tempo offense. Also a new defense going from the 3-4 back to the 4-3 with veteran DC John Chavis, and of course a very difficult SEC conference schedule. Well, Quinn, it's that time. Are you ready to go?
I'm so excited, Brett. Anytime football season rolls around, it's just great. I mean, it's like Christmas every day. Coach Morris talked about that as well, and you're just a little bit more happier, and the state is a little more happier, and we're ready to get it going.
Strength and conditioning has been a big topic as we've waited to see what this team would look like once they got back on the field. But we have heard about how they're leaner and meaner, bigger and stronger. And some of those dividends, now we get to find out how they take hold into practice.
Well, one of the things Coach Morris talked about is the importance of Tremaine Carroll, the strength and conditioning coach. And he really took this team by storm over the summer and in the spring, and they did a nice job of really working out. Everybody came back a little faster. Everybody came back a little leaner, like you talked about. And I think Coach Carroll has done a fantastic job of getting everybody at playing weight. Coach Morris really commented on the fact how everybody's moving a little bit better from drill to drill. And I think you got to give Coach Carroll a lot of credit with that, because he's a guy that is really important to what's going on. When you talk about being an attacking offense, you talk about being an attacking defense, an up-tempo style offense and defense, you got to be in shape. And Coach Carroll has done a fantastic job of getting these guys right. They'll continue to get better. They're not where they really want to be right now. They'll continue to get better as two-a-days progress, and we'll make things happen.
You want to be faster on the field. That's part of it. You also want to be faster mentally, and I think that's where retention comes in. Chad Morris has talked a lot about his team understanding what they need to do coming off spring, and it really has allowed them to go at the pace they want to go.
Well, and you're right about that, and I think that goes back to the leadership of, the seniors and those player-led meetings. Coach Morris really talked about how they did a fantastic job of just the retention aspect of it. And they didn't have to go back to square one to really start all over again. So now you can start with 25% of your offense in or 25% of your defense in. That gives you an opportunity to really pick up where you left off. You don't have to go back and start with the basics. So that was really good. They did a fantastic job overall just teaching one another. They were better with organization. They were better with going from drill to drill. They were better on expectations. They were better on everything that they needed to do. And I think you got to give those seniors, Yelda Froholt and those guys, a lot of credit for making sure that this football team did what they needed to do to be prepared to start off where they're at right now to spring into the first game of the football season.
Well, of course, the quarterback position always provides a starting point. Let's hear from Chad Morris. He says this competition for QB1 could take a while.
You know, the starting quarterback, what's the timeline on the starting quarterback? And there's really not one. And I know everybody wants to say, when are we going to make it? When are we going to make this call? I don't know. I know we're going to get through the scrimmages, and we're going to see who moves the team down the field and gets them in the end zone. And I would, obviously you can't do it at this time, but these guys have got to feel, they got to feel the pressure. And I want to be, as I've shared with them, and Coach Craddock talks to it all the time, we want the same guy every day. I don't want a guy that's up here one day and down here the next. I want the same guy, up 10 or down 10. I want to see the same guy that's going to keep everything under control and will his team to winning. So that's our challenge to these guys. The young man that really kind of shot out of the blocks yesterday really well, is Dalton Hyatt. He did some really good things. Nobody's talking about this guy. And so as I shared with him, I said, nobody's talking about you, man. What are you going to do? Are you just going to sit back and you're going to give it up here or what? And are you going to go compete? And so he's done a really good job the last couple of days. I thought Cole has done some really good things, threw the ball well today. Would like to see a little bit more urgency on some of his timing throws. I think that'll come. Ty's very knowledgeable of the offense, which is a strength of his. Sees it well and is getting the ball out. Obviously, we got to get in some protections that we got to get checked right. But these guys are all competing, and they're battling and they're pushing each other in that quarterback room, and they're supporting each other out there too, which is impressive to see.
Boy, heard from Chad Morris. I want to hear from Quinn Grovey. What is it going to look like competition-wise over the next several weeks for that QB1 spot?
Well, I think it's a dead heat. When you look at Cole, Kelly, Ty Story, Dalton Hyatt, I think all those guys are really competing. And then you look at the young guys, John Stephen Jones and Connor Nolan, all those guys have something to say about it as well. Those two guys come in, they have a winning pedigree, and they'll really compete as hard as anybody else. But Cole Kelly is a big, strong-arm guy. He needs to really come up with a little more sense of urgency when he talks about getting into the huddle and getting the team to the line of scrimmage. You got Ty Story as a guy who really understands the offense. He's a guy that can really get you in and out of plays, get you out of bad plays, and really just minimize the negative plays. And then you got Dalton Hyatt, who I think is really a combination of both. He's a bigger guy, not as much weight, tall, but he's athletic. He just needs to continue to learn what he needs to do, but he's a guy that can get you in and out of trouble. He's more athletic than those other guys, and he's a guy that has a lot of moxie. But we talked about John Stephen Jones and Connor Nolan. I think both of those guys are guys that will come in and compete and just really try to make this a battle. Coach Craddock and Coach Morris will tell you they're looking for consistency. They're looking for the same guy every single day, not a guy that's going to be up one day, down one day. They're looking for a guy that's going to get the team in the end zone. I've always said, my coach always told me is, the team will decide who the quarterback is. And when you walk into that huddle, how they respond to you and how you get them to do things they're not supposed to do will determine whether or not you'll be the quarterback. Getting them in the end zone, moving them, getting first downs, all those types of things where people respond to you, they gravitate to you. That's what's going to make sure that you're the quarterback for the University of Arkansas, and that's what all those guys are trying to do.
Quarterbacks also need some offensive linemen to help them out. This is one area really of concern right now for the Arkansas Razorbacks as far as depth. They've had a couple of guys go down. They're getting to the point where they almost have single-digit number of players out there. So this is an area of great concern going forward.
Well, that's unheard of when you talk about an SEC-type football team, because if you're going to win in the SEC, you got to win in the trenches. You got to win on the offensive line. You got to win on the defensive line. And when you've only got 9 scholarship offensive linemen, that really puts you in a tough situation. So one of the things that Dustin Fry, the offensive line coach, is really trying to do is cross-train all those 9, because what you want to be able to do is get the best 11 on the field, offensively and defensively. So if you only got 9, everybody on that offensive line has got to know what everybody else is doing. And when you got guys like Yelda Froholt and Johnny Gibson and those guys that have been around and played a lot of different positions in the past, that makes it a little bit easier. But still, 9 offensive linemen, scholarship linemen, that makes it very, very difficult. But the ones we do have are guys that can be productive. Coach Fry is really excited about them. And as long as they can cross-train, it gives you a chance to be successful.
Chad Morris says it is coaching. That's why they call it coaching. We need to find somebody else who can step up in the absence of some injured linemen until they can get some healthy bodies back.
Defensively, the retention level, very similar to the offense. These guys have taken ownership in it. The Dre Greenlaws and Scooters, and these guys have taken unbelievable ownership. I've been pleased with Randy Ramsey. I mean, these guys have retained. They've retained a lot.
We're gonna have guys rotating in and out. On the defense side of the ball, we got a lot of talent. And from each level, linebackers, D line, secondary, we got 2 D guys and 3 D guys. They can really play. We got a lot of young guys that came in. They got a lot of talent as well. And we just got to bring guys along, understand the scheme of things. But we really preparing for this challenge, and we ready for the challenge coming forward.
I just really respect the way that he comes about his business, and just on the field, he kind of allows us, to be linebackers and go out there and make plays. And he coaches us up on the field, but he does some more of his coaching in the film room, and he allows us to go on the field and make plays.
And it is fun to hear the conversation about players. What it's going to be like going to battle for John Chavis, certainly a veteran coordinator in the SEC. And while Chad Morris a bit unknown after 3 years at SMU, it does feel like people know about John Chavis. So what do you expect to see out of this defense once they start to get their swagger?
Well, John Chavis has been in the SEC a long time. He's been at several stops. When you look at LSU, look at Tennessee, look at A&M, and now Arkansas. He's a lifer in the SEC, and he really loves this conference, so he understands what's going on. And I really expect this defense to be attacking. I expect them to attack as soon as they get off the bus. John Chavis is a guy that really wants to attack, disrupt the quarterback, and create lost yardage plays and turnovers. And that's really what he wants to do. It's all about pressure for him. And these guys really love playing in this defense. You talk to Dre Greenlaw, you talk to Sosa, you talk to all these guys. They get an opportunity to really roam and do a lot of things to really try to cause confusion and cause havoc. Plus, they've seen it from the other side of the field. I mean, these guys have been around. They've seen against A&M. They've seen against, they've played against those guys, and they've seen the kind of defense that John Chavis does. And he's known for putting guys in the NFL. And I think that's really important as well. I mean, that's one of those underlining things that you don't really talk about. They're going to be great defensively, or they're going to do a good job defensively, but he puts people in the NFL, and I think people want to play for guys who can put you in the NFL. He's a big-time coach that really does a lot of great things, and I think he's a great complement to Chad Morris. Chad Morris is going to do a lot of things offensively, and I think he's going to really tie into what John Chavis does defensively.
And, of course, we'll go from that 3-4 from last year to a 4-3, which John Chavis likes to run. So let's talk about the men up front. What does this do for the guys on the defensive line as far as their role in this defense?
Well, just like we talked about 9 offensive linemen, the defensive front has got to be just as critical. And I think we've got a good defensive front. When you look at Sosa Again, you look at Briston Guidry, you look at Randy Ramsey, you look at Austin Capps, Jonathan Marshall, all those guys, I think we've got a nice nucleus. The biggest thing for the defense is we've got to be able to create depth. We've got a good starting 11, but we've got to be able to create depth. Because, that first game, somebody's going to get injured. Somebody's going to run out. And then whenever that second-team person runs in, that's where the fall-off usually happens. But teams like Alabama and Clemson and LSU and those kind of guys, that second-team guy comes in, he's just as hungry. So we've got to be able to create that depth where we can get people in there on that defensive front to be able to battle week in and week out, because that's the most physical spot in the SEC.
Right now, somebody's watching saying, let's hope there's not any more injuries, especially week one.
Yeah, no
but
doubt.
let's talk about a unit that has some veteran players, and that would be the linebackers with Greenlaw and Harris. It really seems like there's some experience to provide John Chavis in this team.
Well, I love Dre and Scooter and what they bring to the table. It's probably one of the best linebacking duos in the country and in the SEC. Both those guys had over 100 tackles last year. And when you talk about a tackling machine, both those guys, they fit the bill. They're playmakers. They can make a lot of plays. That defensive front is going to have to do a great job of holding that offensive line up and keeping them from getting to the second level. If they can do that, that's going to allow those guys to make a lot of tackles. I expect them to have over 100 tackles. I expect them to create turnovers. I expect them to be major playmakers on this defense. Again, it comes down to, what happens with the depth. You know, who can come in when Dre has to go out or Scooter has to go out? I think that that's going to be the critical piece, and I think that that's what we're really going to have to find out.
Let's continue on this defense. I want to talk about the defensive backs in the secondary, because part of the pressure is then putting these corners and safeties on an island with a lot of man coverage on the back end, which is going to create some interesting dynamics. Yeah. But whether it's Curl or Callaway, Fouché, there have been some guys that will step up. And then again, there's Kevin Richardson, who's also one of those injuries that the Razorbacks will have to overcome early.
Well, I thought that was big to get Kevin Richardson back. I mean, he's a senior. He's a guy that's made a lot of plays. And he's a guy that could really help you in that nickel back position, because that position is going to be a pressure position. That's a position that's going to have to be able to sit in and play the run, also play the pass, but that's going to be your pressure guy. So Joseph Fouché, like you talked about, is going to be a guy that can come in. Hayden Henry, Derek Munson, those guys are going to be guys that are going to have to step in and probably help out there, because that is a critical position in Chiefs defense. But you talked about the secondary. I think this is going to be the best the secondary is set up to play this in previous years. I mean, this year will be good. I think with Ryan Pulley at the corner coming back, he's one of the best, and he's got a lot of confidence. I remember interviewing him when he signed. I said, "What do you got to work on between now and fall?" And he said, "Nothing." So I said, "All right, let's go on." And so you got Chevin Callaway, who moved to cornerback, and then you got Cameron Curl, who was at cornerback last year, moved to safety, paired with Santos Ramirez. So I think that's a good combination of guys who can play man-to-man coverage, zone coverage, very smart guys. And I think you'll see this secondary have its best year in years.
Senior offensive lineman Yella Froholt did not even play American football until his sophomore year in high school. When he came to Arkansas, he was on the defensive line. The learning curve has been steep, but it's also been quick, and coaches have been raving about Froholt's performance both on and off the field. Let's get to know more about Yelta.
Yelta's the best I've been around, and I know I'm a young coach, but he's one of those guys that sets the tone every single day. What he says pretty much goes. Those young guys look up to him. They're going to pretty much do everything they can not to let him down.
I kind of had a feeling it was always going to happen, but I think it happened a lot earlier than I thought it was going to be. It kind of naturally came, I think. It's not that I'm like, I'm going to be the leader now. But it's, you're the oldest guy in the room. You have most experience in playing in games, big games. I've had success. And I've had great guys before me. Like, luckily, I was there with Skip and Frank my sophomore year. And they helped me. And kind of seeing how they helped me through all my trials and stuff like that, I can kind of do that now. And I see the same mistakes in some of the younger guys or even older guys, and I can help them get on the field and become better.
How he goes, we go. And I think as me as a coach, too. I mean, he's harder on himself than I can ever be on him, where I got to build him up after a bad play. He knows what he did wrong. I got to be a positive because he's so hard on himself. And the other guys, they kind of adapt to that of, look how, man, he's the best in our room, but look how he goes about his business. Look how he goes about his day. Look how hard he is on himself. And I think that just spreads to our whole room. And I've not been around a guy like him ever, leadership-wise.
In the trenches, it doesn't really change that much. Like, you got to block the guy in front of you. There's not really that many ways of saying how to block a 3 technique. You need to get off the ball, and you need to get your hands in his chest, and you need to push him off the line. So in the end, we're still going to be a very, very physical football team. It's not, oh, it's spread and we're going to just run laterally. It's still really physical and really upfront. We're going to run the ball a lot, if there's any doubt there. But I think you can have success in any scheme if your offensive line is physical and plays real well.
I'm so fortunate to have a group like that and to have a leader like that this time next year when we're talking about what does losing Yelda do for your room, I'm going to wipe a tear out of my eye because he's that awesome of a person and a player.
It is amazing to think how he's gone from defense to offense and changed positions. And it gets a little bit back to, Quinn, what you mentioned as far as cross-training. These offensive linemen, we think of them kind of the big nasties up front. They have to be versatile, and they have to be able to do different things.
Yeah, Dustin Fry, the offensive line coach, is going to ask a lot of those guys. And, you know, Yelda Froholt is definitely the leader. He's the leader in the room, and he's the guy that really makes everything go from the offensive line standpoint. Just like Frank Ragnow last year, you know, Yelda learned from Frank and was able to assume that leadership role in spring and he's done a fantastic job with that. Dustin Fry says he's one of the best he's ever been around. But, you know, you look at Yeldon and the way he's progressed. I mean, when he first started on the offensive line, I mean, he struggled. I mean, he was missing blocks, and everybody's like, why is he in the game? And now he's our best lineman, and he's put himself in position to make a lot of money next year, and he's also one of the best offensive linemen in the SEC.
Good point. Frank Ragnow, a first-round pick in last year's draft. Could be Froholt next year with a very bright future beyond playing here at Arkansas. Last fall, Chad Morris was named as the head football coach here at Arkansas, the 33rd in school history. Comes to Arkansas after 3 years at SMU where he put up prolific offensive numbers. But Quinn, he's a guy who's self-described as a high school football coach. He loves that label. He loves teaching and instructing, and that'll be part of what he brings.
Well, he's very proud of it, and you know, he feels like that's going to really help him. That's a part of who he is. That's his fabric, and he doesn't want to get away from it. He believes those roots are really what's made him who he is, and you know, I think it's really going to help him from a coaching standpoint. It's going to help him from a recruiting standpoint. I think we've already seen it's helping from a recruiting standpoint, but he really connects with those high school coaches at a different level than most. If you hadn't been a high school coach, you can't relate to sitting on the other side of the table when one of those Division I coaches come into your office and really try to recruit one of your kids. So Chad is really grounded with that, but he's a fantastic football coach. He's a guy that's bringing a lot of hope, a lot of excitement, not only to the players, but just to the state of Arkansas. And with his offensive scheme and him bringing Chief in, I think that's a great combination, you know, at the University of Arkansas that will yield success. But Chad is a fantastic human being. He's a guy that's really gone around the entire state. I mean, he's been everywhere. I mean, you see him at Little League games, you see him at Kiwanis meetings, you see him at everything. I mean, he's just been everywhere. I don't know how the guy gets any sleep. It's that Red Bull, probably. But at the end of the day, he's doing a fantastic job. He's got a lot of energy, and this up-tempo, no-huddle offense, along with this attacking defense, is just what the doctor ordered for the University of Arkansas and the fans.
I think you're right. There's a great curiosity to see what this new-look Razorback football team will comprise. But I think one of the challenges has to be any new coach has a new system change offensively and defensively. You have so many returners that were recruited to play in a different system. What type of challenge does that pose not only for Chad Morris but also his staff?
Well, I think the players on this team are going to adapt to Chad's offense a whole lot better than most people think. I mean, you go from the whole smash mouth thing to spread, but Chad will tell you he's a two-back shot, run-oriented type offense. He's going to utilize the tight end an awful lot, and that's really going to be the indicator of whether or not you're running the football or throwing the football based off the defensive matchups that they bring in and how they respond to that. But he wants to run the football. He had a 3,000-yard passer. He had a 1,000-yard rusher and 2,000-yard receiver. So he's going at SMU last year. So he's going to spread the ball around. He's going to get everybody involved. He's going to take a lot of shots. So the defense is not going to really be able to set in the box like they used to. There's going to be a lot of different things that the quarterback will be able to do in this offense, especially with the RPOs and everything that they've got installed. And if we can find a quarterback that can really, you know, embrace all that, understand all that, then you've got a chance to be right on just about every single play. And that's what makes Chad Morris's offense so dynamic.
He's no stranger to slogans. We know left lane hammer down. He threw another one at me the other day, a November to remember. And for that to occur, that means you have to build the foundation, not only in training camp, but you can get off to a decent start in September and October before you get into conference play.
Well, you know, that's going to be big. I mean, everybody talked about it. And Coach Broyles used to talk about that a lot. They remember in November, and you got to win one game at a time. I know they're looking at Eastern Illinois right now as the focal point. I think this football team will continue to get better and better every single week. And Chad Morris is a guy that's going to have his football team doing the right things. They're going to be intelligent. They're not going to beat themselves. Now, they may not have the talent all the way across the board to beat you, but when he gets the talent, they're going to be a team that's going to be fundamentally sound and do the right thing. And so I think you're going to see improved play and consistency on both sides of the football.
I know one thing. We'll be here the next 3 weeks to get you ready for the start of this Razorback football season with more Razorback training camp. For Quinn Grovey, I'm Brett Dolan. Thanks for watching CST.
Everybody keeps talking about big-name coaches going to other big-name programs, and I'm telling you right now, maybe the sneakiest hire of them all was hiring the boy that's in Arkansas right now.
Chad Morris.
He can coach.
He can coach, son.
No matter how many games he wins or loses, he will be entertaining doing it.
As crazy as it must be, resurrecting SMU and being named the head coach at Arkansas, I can't imagine how crazy it must be when you go 16-0 back-to-back years in high school football in Texas. I want you to try to describe that for us because it must be madness. Look at that grin.
It's Friday Night Lights, right? I mean, they invented it down there.
You know, and I've said this, and I tell Dabo this. I said, Dabo, man, I'll get fired quicker being a head high school coach in Texas than I would be the offense coordinator at Clemson. And he'd laugh and chuckle, but here's what I found: the parents in that area, they're so successful. Success breeds success, and so they expect to win. So we get in there and we go 16-0, and then to turn and do it again the next year. To go 32-0, I think we finished number 2 in the country. It was insane. When you go in front of a home crowd and it's 25,000, and then you go and play in the playoffs and you get the state championship game and you're in front of 45, 55, 60,000, it really is. I mean, last one out, turn the lights out because the whole town shuts down.
Do you have the support? Do the high school coaches from Texas look at you and go, all right, Coach, you're one of us?
Man, you have no, I wish I could pull my phone up right now to see the number of high school coaches that are texting me, that are watching this, that are so much in support of what we're doing. And not just in the state of Texas now, I'm talking about all over the Southeast. I take great pride in being a high school coach. And there's a young high school coach that's watching this show right now that's going, you know what, man, if he can do it, I know I can do it. What I got to do? And you know, I get choked up thinking that you have that impact across the country, that guys are looking at me going, I can do that. And I give them hope.
Why?
And, man,
why is that emotional?
Yeah, you know, because you don't understand the platform you have in this business as a head coach. And this is something we've always said, a life touches a life that touches life. And I know that there's a high school coach that I've said something or been at a clinic and done a few things, and I may never meet him, but I know that what we're doing is impacting his life, and he's going to in turn go and turn that into something in his program that's going to impact a kid and maybe change a kid's life. It's pretty powerful. Let me just tell you, I'm not going to lie, really powerful. Everybody ready? Yes, sir. Let's go out there and let's have the best practice of anybody in the country right now. When we step on this field, we got one standard, and that's what? Sir. I expect our standard to show this second half. Here we go. Good day right there, man. All right, we finished strong.
I have written the bottom 10 for ESPN.com for years. So I have watched a lot of SMU football. But over the last couple of years, guess what? I didn't watch it anymore. How difficult a challenge was that? How did you do what you did down there?
It was extremely difficult. But here's what I knew. I knew that we had won everywhere we'd ever been. I had the blueprint in my back pocket for winning. Coming from Clemson, I knew what it's going to take, and I knew you had to win with in-state kids in the state of Texas. That's why I took the job. I knew that my high school background, that I had to have high school coaches help me pull that thing together. Even though the scoreboard did not show in our favor that first year, I knew we were getting better, but our players, they're not seeing the results. So we had to literally create daily wins, and they had to be celebrated, and you had to be able to measure them.
There had to have been a moment that you knew that all those daily wins were stacking up to something special. And what was that moment?
Yeah, we beat Houston. You know, it was the second year, and they came in ranked number 11 in the country. We dominated the game, and I felt at that point the belief in the process, the belief in the daily wins, you just felt it. Thank you for the opportunity to be the next head football coach at the University of Arkansas. Now, I promise you, the more you get to know me, I won't let you down. We want to win. Make no mistake about it. We're here to win. We want to win. We want to win championships.
So going to Arkansas, how different is it? How much can be applied to a place that has the history and has the resources and has a little bit more everything than where you came from?
The similarities of Clemson and the University of Arkansas right now, 7 years ago, are very eerie in comparison from even the town, the way
Yeah.
the town,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
hills, the lakes,
Yeah.
you know, and the fan base. We're recruiting at a very high level. We're taking advantage of the fan base and the resources that we have, and we're going to build it. We're going to win.
My favorite thing on social media was watching you on a Friday night with that helicopter flying all over Texas,
Yeah.
just buzzing stadiums.
That's right.
What were we going to see from you at Arkansas?
Well, we had the Tempo Copter, very valuable, see 7 games in one night. Tempo Copter had its own Twitter account now.
I know.
It's
I'm
live
a
now.
follower.
He was on
Yeah,
it, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And he gets mad if I'm flying in airplanes. And so, well, now it's the pork chopper. Now, the pork chopper is, man, it's real. It's live. So you'll be seeing Chad flying around the pork chopper at times. Landing. I wanted people to say, hey, give me some names of what the helicopter needs to be.
Pork chopper.
The pork chopper.
Pork chopper hit head on, and they like, let's do it. Why not?
That's it. Coming to a high school stadium near you,
the
Friday
pork
night.
chopper and Coach Morris.
There you go. Obviously, Arkansas probably not going to make the playoff, but can they make a bowl game at least?
I don't feel good about it. I'll be honest with you, I don't. And I will gladly eat the crow. I would love it if they got to the postseason. That'd be wonderful for this league. But if you look at their schedule, who are they better than on their schedule? First of all, they do play 4 group of 5 teams in the non-conference. They, of course, got that waiver, as we all recall, because they no longer have to play a game against Michigan in the non-conference. So they have a chance to be 4-0, even though the road trip to Colorado State week 2 is no
not easy
trip.
Yes.
Who else do you like them to beat?
Gee, if they don't go 3-0 in the first 3 weeks of the season, they're not making a bowl game.
I'm very concerned.
And I look at, obviously, October 20th against Tulsa, and possibly Vanderbilt or Missouri, you get a win out of one of those 2 games. I don't see 6 wins for Arkansas.
It's going to be hard to get there.
Yeah.
4 wins is maybe more likely than 6. And if they get to 6, man, Chad Morris deserves some Coach of the Year.
He deserves a raise again.
Yeah, he does. Another raise. All right.
What we know is Arkansas will look drastically different, especially offensively, after Chad Morris comes in from SMU to take over and replace Brett Bielema. How much different does it look? What does it take to correctly and quickly implement an offense? We will discuss that. As you know, notable departures include the quarterback Austin Allen, Frank Ragnow, of course, center up with the Detroit Lions, now Andre Tolliver, and Kevin Richardson, just part of what is now gone from the Arkansas Razorbacks. Dari Noka, Greg McElroy here. So the offensive guy that you are, you've had to learn new offenses.
I have.
What he is coming in, bringing, is so drastically different from Brett Bielema. What goes into getting it installed in a way that it can be absorbed quickly?
Well, that's the name of the game when it comes to Chad Morris, is speed, tempo. Let's try to ramp up the pace a little bit, and let's simplify what we're trying to do offensively. They're not going to try to do too much. They're going to have simple formations. They're going to have simple concepts for their players while making it difficult for the opposition's players. Now, a lot of Arkansas fans are probably looking at this and saying, man, when we transitioned from Bobby Petrino to Brett Bielema, it took a while for us to get things going. The transition from Brett Bielema's offense to Chad Morris's offense is going to be a little bit more seamless than vice versa. So I don't think it's going to take as long to get this style installed, but it might not reap the benefits that they're expecting from it until they find a quarterback that can run it at a high level.
Why will it be easier, this transition?
Because when you're going from fast and athletic along the offensive line in the trenches, more athletic than what they had at the time, to big, bulky, downhill rushing attack, running the ball is difficult. I mean, running the ball is a challenge. Of least resistance, especially in the SEC. You can't just run it down Alabama's throat and LSU's throat and Auburn's throat. You got to find unique ways to spread the football and to get it out in the perimeter and find chunks downfield. So it's easier to move the ball through the air in the modern day, in the modern era in college football, and they have to find a quarterback that can do it.
Optimism level for Arkansas. I think they would consider success 7 wins.
Yeah.
You give them a shot at that?
I do not.
You're not up.
Right now, their talent gap between the A&M's, Alabama's, Mississippi State's, Auburn's is just far too wide. Arkansas has got a real big uphill to climb.
Bowl game or no?
No bowl.
No bowl.
No bowl. Even with the most manageable schedule in the Power 5. It's unfortunate.
Woo pig, says Greg.
think, Paul? Okay, so
I
do
like
you
South
think
Carolina at 6-2.
do you
I'm a
think
big fan of that.
Arkansas goes 0-8 in conference?
I do not.
No way. They're gonna sneak a win in somewhere.
We
sure.
got to get the Arkansas schedule up here because I want to see
where that one win
where
is.
that one
They
win
have
is.
Ole Miss at home. They have Vanderbilt at home. So that's a loss, right? According to Bruce.
Yeah.
See, I don't think Arkansas' schedule is that bad. I mean, I know Auburn and Alabama, but
versus A&M, that's a real.
I think they're going to get either Ole Miss or Vanderbilt at home.
Have some fun. Have some fun. Worked hard to get here now. You worked hard to get here. Let's go. Don't forget the little things, man. Little things make a big difference, right? Have some fun, baby. Let's have fun, man.
You know it, Coach.
All right, you deserve
Last
this.
one.
You deserve it. Have fun. Enjoy the journey. One day at a time, right? You worked hard to get here, right? Worked hard. Everybody's worked hard to get here. Got it? Best in the business, right? Be that way, one day at a time. Here we go! One day at a time. You of all people should understand that. One day at a time, man. Day one. A lot of excitement. A lot of energy. Something really special is about to happen here. It's one day at a time. And remember, man, greatness is not for the chosen few. It's for the few who choose it. Here we go, baby. Family on three. Let's get this thing kicked off the right way. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's go, baby. Here we go. Everybody moving. Everybody's moving. Let's go. Good rep right here. Good rep. Championship rep right here. Come on, come on, come on. Good rep. That's a championship rep right there. Get around, get around, get around. Good. Good rep. Championship reps. Go, 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 go. Quick, 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 quick. Let's go. There it is. There's Fonny. Nice 1-5. Nice 1-5. Finish, finish, finish. Nice, 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 nice. Accelerate now. Finish. Tuck it away now. Tuck it away. Hey, nice work. Nice work. Nice work. Nice work. Good job. It counts. Go, keep pushing. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. Quicker, quicker, quicker. Little things. Gain speed. Let's go. That's it. That's it. There you go. There it is. There it is. We could go another 24 periods, 36 periods. You name the spot. You tell us when we need to show up. And nobody's tired out here. You got it? The retention level from spring through the summer was very evident today that you guys worked your butt off. Extremely, extremely impressed with day one. But the season starts when? Tomorrow. The season starts when? Tomorrow. All right, day one mentality tomorrow. Great energy today. Let's pick it up tomorrow. Everybody up. Here we go, man. Little bit of energy right here. Family on three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good day today. Good day today. Good start. Good start. Nice work. Nice work.
And we are heading to Arkansas right now, where Chad Morris joins us. He's the first-year coach at the university. And Coach, watching some of the video during, I mean, I'm long past my prime in pretty much everything, but I'm fired up watching you, man. You got an infectious personality at those practices. Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, Paul. Great to be on with you.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the big issues. I know you spoke in Little Rock today at the Touchdown Club. They're one of the best ones in the country, by the way. And I know that you were asked about the quarterback situation. What can you tell us?
Well, yeah, I get asked about that quite a bit. And, you know, right now, Paul, going into basically the week before, kind of our mock game week, you know, we're not ready to name a guy just yet. You know, we've been looking for that guy that really just kind of take the lead and just to take this thing over and make it a clear cut. And both of these guys have been competing extremely hard against each other, and we're yet to have that guy that just pulls away. And so, Paul, you know, obviously we'll look to name someone probably toward the end of the week, first of next week, and you know, nothing to be said that we couldn't play both these guys.
You dealt with some pretty heated quarterback challenges over the years, including one with Deshaun Watson. So you know how the drill works. I'm really interested in your mindset, being an offensive-minded coach. How you make that final determination? What usually decides something like this?
Well, you know, you'll sit down and we'll look at the big picture of things, and you know, you want the guy that steps on that field that's going to make everybody around him better, and how his teammates respond to him, and how he responds in adverse situations. And sometimes, Paul, as we are right now, you know, you may not find that out until it's real live. I mean, guys are flying at you left and right, and then you see how he's going to respond. And you know, we did have a scrimmage early on. We made our quarterbacks live. Now, I did not make those, you know, Cole or Ty live, But I had to see what some of our younger guys had to do and what they could do. But really, it's about, can you make other people around you better?
Every coach is different. Sometimes we don't know until the game begins who runs out there. You indicated you may name it sooner. What's the advantage of ending the suspense and having a number one guy?
Well, I think just get back to some normalcy, and so the team knows, the players know. They get asked about it all the time, and so once you get that done, it's behind us. Look, this is our guy. He's going to start the game. Doesn't mean he's going to play the entire game. I mean, again, it's all back and forth. You know, we had the Cole Stout and Deshaun Watson situation to where Cole started the season and did a great job, but Deshaun had to play. And I'll never forget going to that Georgia game, that very first game, you know, the third series of the game. We were going to play Deshaun, and it's very similar here. We've got to make sure that we have a quality backup that's gotten reps as well. So whoever the starter is, we've got to make sure that the next guy's ready to go as well.
Coach, you mentioned mock game week. We all realize game week is next week. So what happens this week to help you get ready for next week?
Well, classes started today, so we get back into that normalcy. Mondays are our days off for our players. They'll swing by the building, check in, and but no practice. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll step on them pretty good Tuesday and Wednesday now. And then Thursday, we'll go into a lot of what I call situational Thursdays. Friday, because of Saturday, we'll have a mock game, but it'll be very simulated. Friday will be a pretty intense practice, and we'll go into Saturday's mock game. And then Sunday, we start the game week, and we'll have practice Sunday night. And so we'll try to get just a little bit of how the meetings will work. The time schedule will kind of be, it'll go back to a normal game week.
Coach, everyone's different at practice, but we were, while you were talking, showing some video of you. We showed it even before you came on. And I'm not saying I'm conversant on every single coach and every single practice, but man, I don't know when I've seen someone with the kind of energy that you bring. Take us through that, because I know it's got to be exhausting, number one, but there has to be a method to the madness. Would you agree?
Oh, there is, and you know, this is just the way I'm wired. I'm a very positive person in a way that I know that we've got to get our work in. Maybe that's the high school coach coming out in me, that, you know, you can coach these guys as hard as you want, but they better know you love them and care about them, and it better mean a lot more off the field than it does on the field with these guys, and you care about their families. And so, you know, Paul, I make a point every practice I'm going by and visiting with every player during stretch. That's what you saw me during that clip right there. That's every day. And I tell these guys, look, you're 18, 19 years old. You'll never have more energy than I will. Now, you might for a small period of time, but you can't outlast me from an energy standpoint. And if I can bring it, I know you can bring it. And so, you know, as a head coach, you've got to set the tone. I set the tone for our staff. I set the tone for our players. And that's my expectations. I want things to be upbeat. I want them flying around, and I want us to get our work in.
Yeah, I know they're conditioning, and they get ready. How do you condition to get ready for this?
Well, I run. I'm a runner. I love to run, and so, you know, middle of the day, I'm usually out. They can catch me out on, you know, I try to go, I don't know, 35, 40, 45 minutes on a jog, and to get my mind right and get myself ready to go.
So everyone has a different running pattern. Some talk to themselves, others listen to music. If we followed you around today or tomorrow, whatever day this week, in the middle of the day, what would we be picking up, watching you, or maybe listening to your mind work?
Well, I run. Randy Ross is my running buddy. He's my football ops guy. And
I know
so
Randy.
you know Randy, and he and I run together. And usually kind of just to debrief and talk about everything, but sometimes but football. And so a lot of talking, a lot of listening, a lot of talking to myself as we go, and kind of planning the day out and planning the week out, and just kind of get away. You know, usually I'm jogging down the road and people are honking at me, waving at us, and so you know, that's just kind of the way it is.
It seems like Randy may have a year or two on you. I mean, you don't run him ragged, do you?
No. Randy runs me ragged.
No, I've known Randy for a long time. I can get that. I get that. That's okay. When it's over, what have you accomplished? I know that's kind of a question, but running is a very personal thing, and a lot of times you can figure things out, solve problems while you're doing that.
Yeah, you know, a lot of some of the best ideas from an offensive standpoint I've gotten while I was out jogging on the running trail, and you know, talking about different schemes, different techniques, different ways to do things. Maybe it's the way you approach your team in a team meeting. Just different ideas, trying to change things up and be innovative in everything I do, and a lot of things are thought out on the running trail.
Not to like make this a day in the life, although I think it would be pretty interesting. But when you do you ever get away from it? But I mean, I realize this is not a good time to get away from it. But I mean, you have to have a little bit of time. You get home, you see your family, that you think about something other than the first game, practice, what's going on tomorrow.
We do. You know, I actually had a chance to get away and do a little fishing last night with Chandler, and just to get away, step back, unwind. When the short period of time that you do have, you got to maximize every moment, and I try to share that with our staff too. You know, I need our staff as fresh as you can possibly be when the time I need you the most, and that's week 7, 8, 9. As the grind of the season hits, everybody gets to that point in time in the season, and you got to be as fresh. So you got to steal every moment you can. And last night was just one of those moments that Chandler and I were able to go out fishing, and we didn't want to talk about his fall camp, and he didn't want to talk about my fall camp. We want to talk about who was going to catch the most fish.
What did you catch?
Oh, he caught more fish than I did. Let me just tell you that. A lot more fish than I did. And I had to figure out how to steal his lure. So, but anyways, he caught me, so I had to give it back.
Man, if you're as competitive fishing as you are, the fish have no chance, Coach.
No, they didn't have too much of a chance with both of us in the boat.
That's hilarious. Well, listen, I know you have a lot going on as we close. Just take us through the next couple of days. I know you mentioned the mock, but in your mind, it's a little bit early. But how do you feel about this camp?
Well, I've been very pleased with the way we've come out of camp. We broke camp Saturday night, and I've been very pleased. I think that we've got better. I think we're still a long way away. We've got to continue to address those small things. And as I shared with our team, you know, just the simple things, Paul, running on and off the field and doing it with a sense of urgency. You know, when I call them up in meetings, getting their eyes on me, stuff like that. Just the little things are the things that make a big difference. And but I love where we're at. I love where this team is. There's not a lot of people giving us a chance, and that's okay, and that's understandable. But the one thing that people don't understand is the hunger level of this team. And as I share with these guys, the hungry hog hunts best. So how hungry are you?
We just want to show this one more time. I think this is the ball security drill, Coach, that we were looking at, and we're going to show again. I'm not sure you can see it, but tell us what's going on here.
Well, we as part of our circuit, and offensive line was recovering a snap, and I saw an O-lineman jump on the ground and didn't have the urgency I wanted, so I said I was going to take the ball away from him. But once he realized that I jumped on the ground, man, his sense of urgency picked up quite a bit. Man, a lot of fun right there.
I think anyone would. Coach, I don't know how many games you're going to win, but you win my award as the most energetic coach of the fall camp. Listen, thank you as always for coming by.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate
it.
Wow,
that's pretty inspirational. I mean, listen, we're not in every practice, but that was really, really cool to watch. Coach Chad Morris joining us.
Could be a joy to go down to Fayetteville because I really like what Chad Morris has got going. So let's go out to our SEC now. Camp Pass is, we look at the Razorbacks and what are they going to be this year? Well, we do know that they got Dijon Harris, who's an absolute beast, DJ.
Yeah, he is. And for one reason that I like him, his nickname is Scooter. It's such a cool nickname, but Dijon Harris is one of those type of players. He's athletic. He has the ability to run sideline to sideline. Now you're talking about bringing John Chavis in, an already intensified defensive coordinator who loves to get downhill. He loves to attack, and he's one of those type of players. When I look at Dijon Harris, I kind of grade him off the 3 R's: read, recognize, and react. And he does all those at a
And by the way, he's 4 are really good when he does it as well, too, right?
And you know what? They're moving to that 4-3 defense now. So he's going to have those big D linemen in front of him so he can run sideline to sideline and have a chance to run even more. 115 tackles last year, 3.5 sacks. This guy will continue to get better because of D coordinator John Chavis.
How good is it going to have Dre Greenlaw on the other side, too? The young man that went over there and represented the Razorbacks over on SEC Media Day.
Yeah, he's another big-time tackler. He's another guy who you can feed off, and when one guy guys blocked up, here comes another guy who can make a tackle for you. So this linebacker core is probably one of the tops in the country that can run, and they're all athletic. And defensive coordinator John Chase is going to get the most out of those guys.
They need something. 14th in defense last year. They gave up 34 points a game. When you go ahead and look at this schedule, DJ, what is a realistic expectation level for the Razorbacks in Chad Morris's first year?
You know what? I think a lot of games last year, they did not compete as far as finishing ball games. They have to go out and they have to compete in every single ball game, and they have to be competitive, especially in this West Division. This is going to be a tough schedule from time to time, but they have a chance to really be special and put some good things on tape. Chad Morris is bringing that new style to Arkansas. It's going to be interesting to see how he uses that kind of spread option attack to be able to see, hey, in the past they're used to running the football a lot. Are those guys capable of doing that?
You look at that, Eastern Illinois at Colorado State could be a very intriguing game there in Fort Collins, because if they can win that, there's a pretty good chance they start off 3-0 before they got to go down to the Plains.
Well, people, you need that. You need that for confidence. It's good for a new coach. You're bringing in a new culture. It's good for a new group of guys to come in and say, hey, this is a new environment. We're going to make sure we go out and put our best foot forward. And they can go and be undefeated by the time they get there.
Yeah.
They're going to be confident going into those SEC games.
If they can find a way to make a bowl in that first season and start recruiting that Texas pipeline that Chad Morris was known for when he was up there in Dallas and SMU, that's going to be a big thing.
How about this? You mad here? This is in Fayetteville, and they're working on offensive linemen trying to recover a fumble. I am mad because the last thing I want as a quarterback after I fumble the football is a gigantic 300-pounder trying to jump on me and rip it away. That makes me very mad.
Is that Chad Morris?
I don't know if we can confirm nor deny, because we do want to paint Chad Morris in a very positive light, but it very well could have been.
It looked like him a lot. It did. And I'm mad if that was him.
Why?
Because I don't want coach
You're making too much money to start as a head coach to be wrestling around.
Hot out here.
All right.
No, obviously Arkansas probably not going to make the playoff, but can they make a bowl game at least?
I don't feel good about it. I'll be honest with you, I don't. And I will gladly eat the crow. I would love it if they got to the postseason. That'd be wonderful for this league. But if you look at their schedule, who are they better than on their schedule? First of all, they do play 4 Group of 5 teams in the non-conference. They, of course, got that waiver, as we all recall, because they no longer have to play a game against Michigan in the non-conference. So they have a chance to be 4-0, even though the road trip to Colorado State week 2 is not easy trip.
Yes.
Who else do you like them to beat?
Gee, if they don't go 3-0 in the first 3 weeks of the season, they're not making a bowl game.
I'm very concerned.
And I look at, obviously, October 20th against Tulsa, and possibly Vanderbilt or Missouri, you get a win out of one of those 2 games. I don't see 6 wins for Arkansas.
It's going to be hard to get there.
Yeah.
4 wins is maybe more likely than 6. And if they get to 6, man, Chad Morris deserves some Coach of the Year
He deserves a
consideration.
raise again.
Yeah, he does. Another raise. All right.